fucking shit. Smoking timelines lit all over. It's over. World's biggest Alex Joner. Holy fucking cow. Smoking timelines all over. It's over. World's biggest Alex Joner.
All of my sexual fantasies involve handcuffs.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another Thursday edition of the Ciderhaus. Ciderhaus Rules is a 1984 novel by American writer John Irving. The title refers to a list of rules that have been posted for years. But they can't read and they remain unaware of it, don't they, John?
Close enough.
Close enough. Let me turn your mic up here and let's get you in on it, too.
Mia and I had like a 3-hour battle before the show about memorizing that intro, but he won apparently.
Fought the law and the law won. Also joining us, Jack Kentner as always, and I'd like to introduce a very special guest, Mr. Rob Noerr. Welcome.
Thank you so much. An honor to be here as always. My wife picked out my shirt for this evening because she was like, hey, you're on with a bunch of chuds like you. So I got my Doc Ellis pitched a no-hitter on acid shirt. First chance I've got to wear this on stream. So very happy.
And your viewers already know apparently, but you're live on your channel as well. You want to plug that real quick?
Yeah. It's just Normal America with Rob Noerr on YouTube and then Rob Noerr everywhere else on X and Twitch and everything. So happy to be here. Happy to be live with you guys as always, man.
Yeah, it's great to have you. I love having you on. You're an awesome guest to have. And I guess we're starting. By the way, Jack, what's going on, Jack? You killing prostitutes, Jack?
No, that business.
He's very serious now.
Yeah, well, we're here to discuss a major issue that's going on with a mutual friend of ours, Destiny, Steve Bonnell.
Steven!
Yeah, and Rob has been
Steven.
covering it. Yeah, I've been watching Rob cover it. He's been very on point. Yeah, and I feel as though he has a lot to offer on the situation. A lot of insights.
Of course, as always, let's welcome in the chat too, everybody. How we doing, world champions?
He sets up Rob and then you go to the chat. We'll get that down someday,
Well,
Rob, I promise.
I'm in the chat too, so it works either
There
way.
you go. What's going on, chat? What's going on, Robert Whaley, Chronic, some old regulars, David Oler King, Jay. What's going on, Jay? Miles E. Flynn, Peter Biker. Don't know that I've seen you. Oh, because he's saying Noerr. So we got some Noerr fans in the house.
Hey,
Incredible.
how about it?
Z. You can always remember, chat, send up to 10 emojis. They will fly across the screen. And we have our goal back at 20 super chats. I guess it's on me today unless our other friend shows up. But I will chug what's our beer today? A land shark as opposed to a land whale. Out of this Russian military helmet, if you go to PTZ2. We set up a bunch of new stuff in the studio today, and then it caused a bunch of conflicts. So the other one of these cameras is not working now. But we'll get that all fixed. Talking about this helmet and this garbage beer. And I guess I'll do it if I have to. So that's all of the introductory stuff. And I think it would be good in my head. Rob has done quite a bit with Destiny back in the day, and there's maybe some drama there, or I don't know. But why don't we pull him up and let him set the stage, if you will, of Stephen Bonnell II. And if in Zoom, Mihai, if you click the actual application and click speaker, and Rob starts speaking, hopefully that should work.
I'm on it.
There it is.
So I'll set the stage briefly for those that are watching and don't know who Stephen Bonnell II is, or he goes by the name of Destiny. He is, if you are in the debate sphere online, I think he's a pretty central figure. Most of the lefties are either orbiters of his or they're doing bad imitations of him. I think he's a pretty talented debater. He certainly puts a lot of work in, and he's someone who's a good rhetorician. His takes are garbage. He is what I would consider an establishment Democrat. So he'll fight back against sort of like the more progressive lefties. But at the end of the day, he's towing the party line. And more than anything, I think his political zeitgeist is hating Donald Trump, like almost every Democrat, you know. And parts of that is they'll throw their own people under the bus if it means a chance to go after Donald Trump. One of the things that he became known for between 2020 and 2024, when there was a Biden administration that the Democrats were unable to defend, he started covering red pill stuff, particularly Andrew Tate stuff, and talking about what a monster Andrew Tate was and how he treats women, et cetera, et cetera. For me personally, I debated him several times. Last time I debated him, he rage quit and blacklisted me. Oh boy, that hurt a lot. And that was my last interaction with him. I didn't have any personal drama with him necessarily. However, a few months ago, leaks of his performing sex acts on a man, filleting a man, plus him engaged in sex acts with several other people were leaked all over Kiwi Farms and then other places online. I was asked about that repeatedly by my audience since I've interacted with them so many times. Honest to goodness, my take was that sucks. I have my feelings on being polyamorous and how stupid you would have to be filming sex acts with multiple people like this. But I feel bad for anyone that gets stuff like that leaked online. However, the story then broke that one of the people that were in that tapes with him was a woman by the name of Pixie, who was a friend of his and a person who had streamed with him on the show.
Quick question. Is Pixie her real name?
I don't know. I think once you're interacting with a guy named Destiny, everybody has to have a stripper name. So my guess is I don't know what her real name is. I've never interacted with her. But long story short, what she claims, and it's all but been confirmed by Destiny and his business partners, is she was aware that he had filmed them having sex, but she did not consent for him to give that video to anyone else. And Destiny's story is, he was talking to this 19-year-old girl on Discord who he'd never met, I guess trying to impress her by sending her videos of him having sex with multiple people. Once he sent them to her, he claims that another person then hacked that person and released these tapes. And so the drama all starts with this orbiter of his, Pixie, basically filing a lawsuit because she feels that her consent was violated because he, at least to one person, my guess would be she probably feels even more than just this person, was sending this sex tape around. Since then, there's been more allegations of other people that were involved with Destiny, streamers. One is the name of Cherry, who I've interacted with. Cherry's claim is, which is somehow more serious, is that not only was audio of her having sex with Destiny released without her consent, she was unaware she was recorded in the first place. And that's approaching the first case with Pixie. She's filing a civil lawsuit. Cherry's filing a criminal complaint. Now, reading the laws, I'm not really interested in digging through the Florida laws, but there's certainly a reading of the laws that says what he did could have been criminal. And now more allegations surface every day, as you would expect with a situation like this, because if you're such a sex pest or whatever the hell you want to call it, that you're filming yourself with so many people and then sending it to randos to try to impress them, eventually word's going to get around and people are going to get pissed off. So that's it in a nutshell. That's what's going on with Destiny.
That's fascinating. Not fascinating. I don't even know what to really say. That kind of just blew my mind there a little bit. But does he live in Florida? Is that what you were just saying?
Yeah, I believe that's where he lives. Now, he is claiming that the sex acts, and I think Pixie's admitted to this as well, the sex acts with Pixie was, if you follow the timeline, would have been around the time she was 19, but this was like 4 years ago. Some things that make this story even worse. One is Pixie kind of built her brand on, well, I'm one of the Destiny orbiters that didn't have to sleep with him for clout. Well, that story's been blowing up. Then one of Destiny's friends and associates is this guy named Lonerbox. Lonerbox is now dating Pixie. So imagine that you turn on the computer and see your girlfriend blowing the dude that's supposed to be your friend in front of, the entire world.
Fun.
And then probably the worst, people haven't talked about this much, but this blew my mind. There is a video of Destiny with like a half hour, an hour conversation with Pixie's dad, where her dad years ago was like, I just want to thank you for being so kind to my daughter. And like, you've been an inspiration to. Imagine sitting there talking to this dude like, you're welcome, sir, knowing that you're filming yourself having sex with this chick and sending it to random 19-year-olds across the internet. So, I mean, if I was that dad, I think I'd probably be paying a visit to Mr. Bonnell. But
Mr. Bonnell. Yeah, that was oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say, and then, I know one of my favorite John Ward videos is when Destiny was debating in State College and you confronted him on little of his degeneracy.
Yeah.
I mean, it's Schadenfreude, right? Like, you listen to this guy sit there and wax on like he's the master of consent and And like all these feminist lefties that are, advocates for women, and Andrew Tate and all these guys are bad guys. They're doing the same shit, if not worse, behind the scenes. It's all an angle that predators use to be able to get close to women so that they come off as looking like allies and they're harmless. And in reality, those are the worst people.
Yeah, Schadenfreude is the perfect word. We believe in Mo Just on this channel. And in German, you can jam words together to make new words. Schaden means pain. And Freud, like Beethoven's Ode an die Freude, Ode to Joy, it's pain joy.
There we go.
Pain joy is Schadenfreude. And that's when you watch what's happening to Destiny right now. And it makes you giggle a little bit. You're experiencing an emotion called Schadenfreude. So perfect word. Yes, I was unfortunate enough to watch him. Well, he wasn't actually in person. He zoomed into it. But holy cow, is he an unbearable person. He is. This is the scenario that saying couldn't have happened to a nicer person is made for.
The best part of that is what the crowd didn't get to see in the actual official YouTube video, because he joined the Zoom call early before the event started, right? And he was just sitting in his hotel room just eating like wings in front of everybody.
Oh, yeah, he was like,
and then he's like
fucking
grabbing Doritos out, like
just
getting every last bite.
sloppily, disgustingly.
That's one of my pet peeves. I do a lot of these debate panels and stuff, and there'll be people. I get it, man. I just rushed to dinner on my way up here.
Yeah,
but if I didn't have time, I wouldn't have ate. I'm not going to come on your show.
He went out of his way to be disrespectful. Like I think he did it on purpose,
especially after allegedly missing his flight.
Right.
He's big time.
Yeah, and people had to pay for these tickets too. VIP tickets.
Who did he debate then? Was that Owen Schroyer?
Or was John Doyle.
John Doyle.
Yeah.
Who actually did quite a good job, in my opinion.
Yeah, it was a decent debate. I enjoyed it.
It's the problem is it's tough when you're actually like realistic and practical, and then Destiny just doesn't listen to anything you say.
Well, right, and so Rob knows that firsthand, and it's exactly why he got blacklisted. I was going to say, yeah, Rob, you used to debate. I mean, you're an unbelievable debater. You can even pick up from just you talking how quick you are off the top of your head, but you're extremely knowledgeable, and so. Yeah, I have a feeling he wasn't a big fan of you making good points, because that's not what he does. And so
the whole thing with me, like I talked to him multiple times. He acknowledged multiple times on stream that I was one of the best people that he debated. But the thing that pissed him off the most was his big shtick was January 6th, right? And this is what the Democrats will run. They didn't care about 4 years, Russia collusion, the FBI corruption, going after Trump, illegally spying on his team, all that. And when I would win arguments with that stuff against Destiny and his orbiters, Destiny himself said to me, that's a long time ago. What are we going to do? And then their entire strategy going into 2024 is, but alternate electors and January 6th was an insurrection. So he debated a friend of mine named Andrew Wilson on was January 6th an insurrection? And Andrew's take, which I agreed with, was, I don't care if it was or wasn't. If you're going to define the word insurrection to mean so broadly that January 6th met that criteria, but so does every other political riot that we saw with Antifa and Black Lives Matter, yeah, I don't give a shit. You could call them all insurrections. And I forget the exact definition Destiny used. It comes from basically his lawyer friend named Bisco that got this from a paper by these guys called The Sweep and Scope of Section 3. It's Bode and Paulson was these authors, and they basically outlined 4 criteria, and it's something like it has to be at least 2 people, it has to be protesting like a public law, it has to be for the public good, and it has to involve some sort of law breaking. And Destiny admits in this debate with Andrew Wilson, if 2 hippies are smoking pot in the street and a cop tells them, hey, put that joint down, and one shoves the other cop, that's an insurrection, according to them. And so Andrew's argument is, that's fine. It's like if you want to say that, being 120 pounds is fat, okay, you can say that, but then everybody's fat. So the word basically means nothing.
Right.
That's the whole point. But Andrew wouldn't define the term insurrection. So Destiny pissed and moaned about it. Long story short, I was supposed to debate this other guy that's a Destiny orbiter on the legal definition of the term insurrection. My argument's the same. I don't give a shit what the legal definition is, because whatever you say it is, no one is ever charged since the time of the Civil War. And whatever your definition is going to be that the standard legal definition is, I'll be able to point to 90 examples that weren't charged. So why is it uniquely going after Trump supporters? Like always. I was at work for like 2.5 weeks straight. I'm there 24/7 when I'm at work. Destiny messaged me and said, hey, you want to debate about January 6th? I said, sure. Whether it was an insurrection. The day I got off work, I said, when do you want to do this? He said, today's fine. So I jumped on. It was a 5-hour debate. I agreed that I would debate the definition of the term insurrection, and I would define insurrection if Destiny agreed to spend equal time debating the double standard and how it's applied. So for about 4 hours, we went through my definition of insurrection, which I just made up off the top of my head, Destiny's definition of insurrection, and he didn't like it because this was his big thing. He studied it. He was putting together a manifesto or a dossier. He did more research than anyone on this. And as soon as you start to interrogate, like, you know, like he'd say things like, well, they all had weapons there January 6th. I was like what? Well, we'll come back to that.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Okay. And then he would say things like, you know, we got into this weird esoteric conversation about if you commit a crime and you have a weapon on you, then clearly you intended to commit violence. And I was like, okay, well, most women I know have little pepper spray on their keychain. If they shoplift, is that an intent to commit violence?
Those violent bitches.
Yeah, well, that
Those
maybe
killers.
the women I know.
I mean, this is kind of, not to cut you off, but just quickly. So I trolled Destiny, and we don't have to pull it up or anything. It's not like something I'm super proud of, but it's just, it became very obvious he is not acting in good faith in any way. So what I did to him was like, I mean, it was a joke, but I said right at the beginning, this is going to seem like a troll, but it's not. He does this kind of shit. So he'll suck you in. It makes you agree. So he's like, he neurotically controls all the conditions of the debate.
Right.
And then as soon as you start winning, he just knocks all the pieces off the board. He's never interested. That's what he'll knock all the pieces off the board in any game before he admits that you're making a good point. And so once that becomes obvious, in my opinion, you no longer are obligated to treat that person as an equal, and you just give it right back. And so,
Rob, are you
The
familiar?
issue is, oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, are you familiar with the May 29th insurrection?
I am very familiar.
I
May
think
29th,
I
May
think that's a
30th.
good tool in the tool belt when it comes to this whole conversation.
It certainly is. That was my whole argument.
well, and as I
Right,
said, I don't think you could bring up any correct and perfect point, and then Destiny will just knock the pieces off the board. That's when I sort of gave up on asking a serious question to him. I said, all right, motherfucker. Like, if you're just doing this kind of shit, then we'll go ad hominem a little bit. I just don't think he's, maybe initially, like years ago, he did kind of have an interest in making good points, and maybe he's actually made some. I haven't really watched that much of his stuff, but certainly lately, I think it's pretty obvious he's on pretty heavy into some sort of stimulant, probably meth.
Vyvanse, that's what he says. He's on
Yeah.
Vyvanse. He's been prescribed it, and he's no longer a sex pest. That's what he was saying. Only leaks broke today showing that on January 6th of this year, after this whole drama unfolded, he was again DMing people on Discord like, LOL, my shit got leaked. You want to see other stuff of mine? To random people on Discord. But I swear to God, one of his arguments is, well, now that I'm on Vyvanse in 2024, I don't do that shit anymore. And like,
Well, you see the way
The reason-
he does a lot of this.
yeah, the reason that this matters is whatever you want to say about Destiny, his argumentative tactics are shit. You're right. That's exactly what he did to me. He threw the pieces off the board, right? As soon as 5 hours, we talked about what he wanted. As soon as we got to what I wanted, and I was like, well, your definition of insurrection would include basically every Vietnam protest, right?
Yeah.
Any Vietnam protest where there was any lawlessness occurred, that's an insurrection. How many were charged with insurrection, right? And then he threw a fit, rage quit, and then blacklisted me from his channel and said it was because 3 hours previously I used AI to look at a paper that he referenced.
Well, yeah, it's like
and I was correct, by the way, on what the AI said.
Imagine saying Kent State was insurrection because the National Guard shot the students. Because that's
Yeah.
essentially what happened at January 6th.
Exactly right. And he would have to, his definition would include it. So my entire argument, this is the Democrat game in a nutshell. They lie and are hypocrites for two reasons. One, when you see them be hypocrites, it shows they don't believe what they're saying. But equally important is they know that you care about it.
Right.
So take kids in cages, right? All of us, despite the fact we might be blusterous or whatever, we might be hardlines on immigration, I don't want to see kids anywhere around the world suffering. I don't want to see a kid detained. The problem is that it's an impossible situation. What do? Do you separate the kids and let them in the country and force the parents to stay in jail? Who gets the kids? A bunch of traffickers?
No, yeah, Rob,
Or
you just let them go missing in America, and we have
That's-
500,000.
Yeah,
of them now.
300,000 to be precise.
the
300,000.
Biden strategy, right? That's not a good strategy. So do you detain the kids with adults? Well, that seems bad because anything could happen in those detention facilities. So under Obama, with the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, when they forced Obama's hand, Obama was like, okay, then we'll put the kids in their own facility. I don't like that necessarily, but what's the alternative, right? Now, Democrats don't give a shit about those kids at all. They don't care, right? But they know that regular people do. So they make a big stink out of it. Then under Joe Biden, within a year, we have 3 times more kids in cages. And they're just like, well, All of a sudden, AOC isn't there crying.
Right.
Fuck them kids, right? These kids had it coming. The Biden kids in cages deserve it. And they try to give you bullshit when you push them on it. Well, these kids are different. The kids before was Trump separating from families. These kids are just like little shitheads that don't have families, I guess. So it's okay to detain them. It's a joke. That's what the January 6th shit is. Like, even if you watch the hearings today in Kaj Patel, they'll say like shit that we could all agree on. Well, you don't want people that are just going slugging police in the face, right? You don't think that's good? No, I guess not. Oh, then you have to be against the January 6th pardons.
There's gun control too. To say, it's all the same shit.
That's right. They don't give a shit. They'll cheer on violent rioters in the name of Black Lives Matter during COVID lockdowns, beating the shit out of police officers. They don't care.
Yeah, and I humbly suggest that I've developed somewhat of a blueprint of how to deal with these people now, and it's what I did to Destiny, which is just, again, if someone's willing to debate you in good faith, if there's someone on the left that is, I mean, I think we need that. Don't get me wrong, we need that more than anything. But AOC, Destiny, there's many people like Destiny, and there's a lot of them in the government, and people get sucked into these debates with the shit they're saying, acting in good faith, because like you're saying, they care, gun control. You don't want kids getting shot by a, pistol that that their parents own, so let's not let parents own any pistols, right? And you're like, it kind of makes sense at first until you realize what's going on. And we've seen this for a long time now, so we get how it works. But AOC, same thing. I humbly submit, you just say, hey, this is going to seem like a troll, but it's not.
Here's what I do.
I don't fucking care what you have to say anymore, ever again.
This Destiny Orbiter calls in my show the other day. He's a reasonable guy as far as Destiny Orbiters go. His name's Econo Boy, and I've debated him many times. And he calls in, he always has this affectation where he sounds like a really benign, reasonable person. Hey, how have you been?
Yeah.
Just want to ask you a few questions here. What do you think about the beginning of
An ambush predator.
Right, so we get into a few questions, no problem. And then he goes, well, here's my concern. See, I'm concerned it's obvious that Trump's policies will be bad, which means that Republicans will lose in 2028. But it'll be someone like J.D. Vance that's the candidate, and they'll just have alternate electors. And now that the Supreme Court's corrupt, they'll know that they lose the 2028 election, but they'll just steal it and blah, blah, blah. What do you think about that? And my answer, how I respond to people like that now is, can you show me any posts or videos you were making talking about the corruption in the lawfare against Trump? Because if you can't, go fuck yourself.
Yeah.
I'm not going to listen to you demand that I condemn hypothetical corruption while you've refused to condemn the actual corruption that happened against Trump. I just don't care. I'll answer that. If one of you asked me that question, I would answer honestly. But I'm not going to listen to bad faith actors that are for the weaponization of the government going after people they don't like, demand that I all of a sudden condemn the same thing if it were to occur on the other side.
Amen. Yeah, that's a cultural. I've seen this on Twitter even since Trump was inaugurated, but just kind of regular normie type accounts and stuff to some of these, tweets about, Elizabeth Warren type tweets or AOC tweets, and people respond just say, we ain't playing that game anymore. Yep. Like that shit is not, and that's awesome to see. Somehow everybody's sort of gotten the courage. I mean, Trump winning helps and stuff, but I don't know. I may be cautiously optimistic that the zeitgeist is changing. Like that is the response. You just don't engage. Like a toddler is throwing a tantrum because they broke their toy. Are you going to sit there and debate with them for 3 hours about like the toy? Or are you just going to be like, stop fucking doing that? Or are you going to go up to your room for...
Well, that's the problem, though. Liberal parents would sit there and give them
more it's
toys.
A change that's happened in us on the right. We're growing up. We're becoming more mature. And then when you become more mature and you look at the left, you start looking at them like a parent would look at a toddler. Like it's not like you hate them. You almost start to pity them. You certainly start to condescend to them and stuff, but like, yeah, it's just like you've literally erased any value in any words that ever come out of your mouth ever again. Like I don't even have to say whatever you want. I just ignore it. And I think people struggle to permanently ignore, like people say they hate, I don't know, Bill Maher, but they'll still, a clip comes up, they'll still watch. Like you gotta get control of yourself enough to literally not click that shit. Don't click Stephen Bonnell shit anymore. It'll go away. He's just now, they're just attracting more and more crazies and people flailing around looking for a common group or culture or anything. And it's once they get that critical mass of crazy people, they just implode. And so he's, I think, rapidly heading that way. But AOC will be around longer. That it's incredible to realize, and I'm saying this for the benefit of the chat maybe. I know a lot of the chat is like this too. But if you're not, you're perfectly allowed to just say, I'm not listening. I literally am not engaged. I don't argue with children throwing tantrums. Sorry.
Now, listen, I agree with that in principle, but there is a time and place where certain people should go into those venues because what it shows is to an audience outside the insanity of them. So, for example,
Right.
Destiny, after the assassination attempt of Trump, right? He comes out and he's spiraling. Now, first, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart, like, Destiny was going through a divorce, whatever the circumstances, that probably sucks. I'm happily married. Hopefully I'll never go through a divorce, but I'm not about to shit on someone for their divorce. But I can imagine how if you're a streamer or a political analyst and you're going through a divorce and that personal shit probably seeps into some of what you're doing. So imagine that. And then Trump gets shot and comes out like a boss. Fight. That moment for Democrats was like, that was their Pearl Harbor. Because they're like, oh shit. Right? Like now the defiance that you see from people like, no, we're done with this shit. And Trump instantly, right? Like all this goodwill comes from. So Destiny starts spiraling and he starts making fun of Corey Compatore, the firefighter that got killed, right? He's making jokes at his expense. Then he's saying, if you're a Trump supporter because you're supporting such an evil man, well, you're fucking around and finding out if you go to a Trump rally, maybe you will get killed. That's the risk you run. And then his co-host Pisco asked him point blank, I was watching live. He said, Destiny, person to person, did you want that bullet to kill Trump? And they're streaming like on YouTube, and Destiny's like, well, I don't know if I could say because of terms of service, but what I will say is the worst thing that happened was that the bullet didn't kill him. Now, I tried to give the benefit of the doubt for like, okay, are you just joking? But here's the reason that I think this matters and why engagement with Destiny on my end mattered. All of a sudden, this dude who's got tens of thousands of people watching him every night, who's a millionaire, he starts making moves after the election where he's now influential enough that DNC chair hopefuls sit down with interviews with him and Pisco in New York. Mainstream Democratic politicians are now like, oh, we need a streamer. We need a Joe Rogan. And they're pointing to this dude like he's this kind of cool, normie, edgy though, left-wing centrist guy. He's not. I hope that he becomes the face of the Democratic Party because in my belief, that is who the Democratic Party is. They are radical. They are children. If they don't get their own way, they'll spiral out of control and say the most heinous shit.
And break everything around them, too. They'll fucking break everything around them.
How long do you think until someone like a CNN or MSNBC starts putting money into this sphere, into this space, and trying to buy up podcasts? Good
question.
Like
well, they have actually with Progressive Victory. I think Rob is familiar with them.
Yep. Yeah, it's absolutely true. Progressive Victory PAC. Brianna Wu, trans advocate of Gamergate. Did you know she was involved in Gamergate, guys? She was spearheaded this big PAC, Progressive Victory PAC. You can go to their website, and their agenda was to sort of bring new forms of online media in the streamer space into the average political sphere. They set up campaigning events where they were doing canvassing, knocking door to door, and they hired a bunch of streamers. Destiny, Vosh, some other big streamers, but then it matriculated down to low-level orbiter people that they're paying like $1,000, $2,000 a month. It's actually very smart. I don't begrudge Progressive Victory for the intelligence behind understanding this is the new media space. And it's why people like Glenn Beck should be listening, people like Turning Point USA. They need to invest in more people like you guys, people that are authentic, up-and-coming streamers, because this is the future of what media will be. And the Democrats are already on board with that. They see that. And so Progressive Victory was even reaching out to Republicans.
It's a good point. If Republicans almost feel like they have it made now, they don't have to do anything.
No, they should. It should be the opposite. Turn it up to 11.
Yeah.
Right? Like, go for the kill shot
Step
right
on
now.
their neck.
Now is the time.
If you think you're... Listen, I like Joe Rogan. Don't get me wrong. He ain't no conservative.
Yeah.
No,
Right?
he's not.
He's not a very right-wing dude, right? And here's the thing. If you're relying on like, oh, that dude will lead us into the media space or Elon Musk, they're not. Like, you need to be laying the groundwork right now. And I do like that Charlie Kirk's been doing some of this. Steven Crowder suggested that he was going to do this when he had his fight. Remember there was that drama where he was releasing his contract from Daily Wire?
Yeah, but then his wife took half his money.
Well, that'll happen, I guess. But Steven put out this memo. It was like, if you're a right-wing streamer and you want a no bullshit contract, like, I don't know about you guys, but that would mean a lot to me. Because here's why. Right now, if I wanted to do this, for those that don't know, I work full-time. I do home health care with adults with disabilities, like autism and things like that. I work like 80 hours a week, right? So this is all a hobby for me. People say, well, how much donations would you have to get to quit your job? What won't work like that? Because let's say I have a friend named Drone Tech Politics. He was banging it out in 2016. He's still a great channel. He's a great dude, right? He quits his job. Then all of a sudden, the 2017, 2018 sort of purge all Republicans on YouTube event happens. Now the dude gets demonetized. Now what? He's got a family with 4 kids. He quit his lucrative job because he was making more money on YouTube. The way you avoid that as a streamer is you get backed by the Blaze, or you get backed by the Daily Wire, or some group that's paying you a contract similar to you would get paid if you're a radio host, if you're a television presenter. If you're relying strictly on donations, then you're at the whim of the company that's allowing those donations. In my case, YouTube, which, trust me, as soon as it becomes politically expedient, YouTube would kick me right back. Right now, they'll kiss Trump's ass, right? Because they're afraid of him. But if Trump would, if Democrats win again in 2028 and say, censor Ciderhaus, censor Rob Noerr, that's the first thing they'd do. They wouldn't care. So, yeah, it's important that moves like this be made. Some Republicans even went over to the Progressive Victory PAC side, like my friend Counterpoint, who's a conservative who canvassed for Democrats to help Democrats win and become more progressive.
Sounds like a Morning Joe kind of a Republican.
Well, I mean, this is the battle we're fighting, and what we're doing with Studio Center. I've actually reached out to Rob. I'd very much like to hire Rob, but that's the battle. You got to have something that's believable for an extent, decades of time that the money's going to be there, and to go about doing that, nothing on the right wing exists. So we operate essentially as like a media station would. I got to be a salesperson. I got to go sell ads and things like that. I mean, the channel makes some money and you get some backers and things like that. But I don't think the right-wing backers, like when you're like myself or Rob or like you guys are going to become, you're really hung out to dry by the way this all works. Any given day, it can be taken away from you if you don't have that money coming in from sponsors or something like that. And so that's kind of what we're working on here too, but helping the money people understand, just like you said, like now is the time to go to 11. Everybody in politics around here is kind of backed off and like, all right, we got the win. And we're the people in the studio are like, no, we're just starting. Now is when everything happens.
I have a whole newfound perspective on all of this. Since like I'm no big YouTuber like you're saying, but I'm trying to get started. And I didn't really think much of the 2017, 2018 censorship things that he was talking about. I thought it was messed up, but it didn't affect me, so I didn't pay that much attention.
Right.
If that were to happen now, I would be freaking out.
Yep. And that's what happened. Thousands of streamers. I mean, it was John, you probably remember this. It was a different world. Like the meme magic of 2016.
Oh, well, 2016 was printing money. I mean, it was, it was election year. I mean, that
any of this legal?
That happens in every if you're in the niche of politics, your money years are election years and stuff. I mean, pretty much every year is an election year. If you know what you're doing, you can make some money every year. But you make the most money in presidential election years, and you get tempted to think, holy shit, I've made it.
Well, and it would not just that. I mean, that's certainly true, but like what the online YouTube sphere was organically, like the big names that you saw that were talking political, that were sort of young people having fun. You had people like Sargon of Akkad was coming up big. Remember Milo Yiannopoulos was going to college campuses. Those videos were banging like every day. And you had all these people that never reached their heights, but that were right-wing people that were just all these memes like Trump coming up. And it was like all this shit was built up for 8 years under Obama where everybody had to walk on eggshells, what they said. And then here comes Trump, and Trump's basically the biggest fuck you. I'll say what I feel. And it was like cathartic. And so all organically, you saw all of these right-wing, not just politics, but people that right-wing culturally started to get really big on YouTube. And then what happened was, if you follow Mike Benz, he talks about this, sort of the State Department, all of these institutions in the executive branch start to realize like, oh shit, we're losing the cultural battle here. So they start to put their thumb on the scale of free speech. And then the rest is history. All of a sudden, come 2020, you can't even talk about whether or not the virus came from China, which, by the way, is now what our CIA says is the most likely cause. That got you censored off YouTube. I got community strikes over and over again 4 years ago. And that's just one thing, community strikes. You also have demonetization. You have shadow banning. You have the algorithm not preferring you. So people like us fight an uphill battle on those platforms. And it has nothing to do with the talent that we would have. It has to do with the fact that the algorithms and the people running these platforms are predisposed to trying to sabotage us. And so once in a while, someone breaks through, but it's very difficult. Compare that to the left. And Jack, I know you've seen, like me, the lefties are a dime a dozen. You could be some lefty that knows nothing. You're a 20-year-old, and you come on, and all of a sudden you have 300 people watching you on Twitch. And why? Right? It's because they have built that platform. They have basically, it's like Reddit. They've bullied everyone out that doesn't share their political views. And so now the audience has no choice but to go those places.
Right. They just make it an echo chamber.
That's exactly right. And I say, no, I'm going to stick around and I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. And, you know, to me, it's like something I learned early from, I was a Christian, then I was like atheist, then I was Christian again. What brought me back? It wasn't necessarily what people were saying. It was watching people live their lives. We could be as persuasive as we want in what we say, but how we carry ourselves is more important. The knock on Republicans that I hear all the time is like, well, they're just these old fuddy people. You know, it's like the Mitch McConnells of the world, like stuffy dudes wearing suits.
To be fair, that is the Republican I grew up with, though. And for a long time, that was the Republican.
It's certainly true, but we're the new Republicans. You watch these lefties, you watch Destiny and his orbiters on stream. They're miserable. Then watch people like us. If you can't tell we're having fun, that we're people that like life, right? That we're not trying to ruin your life for a shitty joke. We like to joke around, have fun. We like to go out. We like hanging out with our families, whatever. And like, I think that's why you're starting to see, I don't know if you saw this Quinnipiac poll, only 22% of men under the age of 45 have a favorable view of the Democratic Party. Young men are just like, screw this shit. They're tired of it. And I think that's more hopeful than even Trump winning, where it's just like, listen, the pendulum is swinging back culturally, but now is the time. If you're listening right now and you're Elon Musk or some random multimillionaire, you ought to be investing in people like this because it's going to make you a lot of money, because this is where eyeballs are going to go. I'm sorry to say, even though he's a hero of mine, Rush Limbaugh is dead. No one's going to fill his shoes on talk radio. The platforms have switched. But to all those people that are nostalgic about those great Rush Limbaugh days, this is the future. And if you're a shrewd investor and you get in on the forefront of this, you're not only going to make money, but you're not going to have to be worried about like what you saw, like, what's his name? Kevin O'Leary. Have you seen any of him talking since the Trump New York case where he's like, you can't invest in New York anymore?
Yeah, I don't know how.
Why do you think the tech bros, the reason they're so for Trump right now is because they see the writing on the wall that the Democrats will be like, yeah, you lose your business because we don't like you. You're a white man. Sorry, you lose. At least if you go with us, yay, capitalism. We might not even like your politics, but if you built your business, it's your business, man.
I was having this conversation with my brother the other day. I actually think there's a real possibility the economy of Texas overtakes the economy of California in the next 4 years.
Yeah, everyone's saying to move there. Even Matthew McConaughey and Woody Harrelson are telling people to start film productions.
That was an awesome ad, Jack, actually, he sent to us the other day.
The True Detective ad?
Mm-hmm.
It is good. Yeah, like two stoners like that, you know, telling people to move. So, but I mean, but they're like Rogan. Here's the thing: these people aren't right wing. It's just that the left became so extreme that they, which would consider themselves like center left, they don't have a place anymore.
Yeah, is Texas even Texas anymore? So like,
it's getting borderline, honestly.
Austin isn't. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. No, definitely not Austin. And then, but even Houston is now. Houston's like the trafficking capital of America now.
Yeah, cities are cities. They're going to be blue sooner or later, I think. But
yeah, it's just, you know, I think that what I'd like to see is that it's difficult because on one hand, you could make a case for the pendulum's going to swing culturally. So maybe Trump should like slow walk shit a little, right? Shouldn't be super aggressive out of the gate. But I say screw that. Strike while the iron's hot and just come out. His blitzkrieg strategy.
The blitzkrieg and aggression is the appeal.
Yes.
It's
I'd say roll with it. What's the Democrats like fight that they're putting up to counter this? A bunch of deranged people at the hearings just screaming their heads off. Do you defend this onesie, Mr. Patel? Do you see this, Bernie Sanders? This onesie. Are you willing to defend this onesie? I tweeted out. I was like, oh, look, Bernie Sanders comes out against clothes for infants. Well, classic Democrat, you know.
Let me ask
you
this.
I think we have the clip for that, too.
Oh, maybe we can grab that. But I was going to ask you this, Rob. I from the young guys, not just Mihai and Jack, but we've had a number of young guys come through the studio that haven't come on the show. They're just not ready yet. But they definitely, I think something critical that's happened with the younger generation is they describe the political parties as masculine and feminine. They find the Republican, well, it's really Trump, but Trump is masculine and Democrats are feminine, and they don't want to be Democrats. Massively. Like on a college, this college campus is the men, I think, are majority conservative, not potentially Republican, but definitely pro-Trump, and it's especially the athletes and the football players and stuff like that. But because it speaks to the way, you know, you're in a locker room and you win, you're trying to win, and you know that kind of thing. So What I'm curious about is will the men swinging that way bring the women along with them?
That's the key point, though. The women have gone
Yes, so that's
more aggressively in the opposite direction.
women have gone the other way for the most part.
Men will win this battle.
Give them 10
right?
years, they'll be lonely and sad and want a baby. And then
That's it.
they'll come crawling
That's
back.
the truth. The truth is feminism is a lose, not just for men, but even more so for women. And like all the studies show this, women have become more and more miserable.
Yes.
Right? Listen, obviously we're speaking in generalities here. If you're a woman, don't take offense
Right.
to what I'm about to say.
Great point.
You know,
They'll still won't understand that point.
I know, because they're women. You know, so what do you expect? But most of you would be happier with children, like being a mother. That's true.
Dude, I'd be happier not having to work and just having some woman
Yep.
give me a bunch of money and just be like, do whatever you want. Just make sure the fucking
That's the
diapers
argument
are
I always
changed.
make to them. I was like, if you want to
Yeah.
go make money and I can just stay at home, drink beers, and
Yeah, I'll
rock
go
a
to the
baby,
gym. I'll
do
fucking
that.
get all
Yeah.
jacked. I'll wear booty shorts
Look
and
good
shit.
for it.
I'll wear a skirt while I dust the
I'll
house.
cook in an apron, an assless apron.
Yeah.
I can do that. That part's easy. Fuck. That sounds awesome.
Now, I think that some of the sort of people pushing this message, like I think the red pill shit's wrong, because the red pill stuff, I don't watch much of it, but it seems to me like treat women like shit and get laid as much as
Yeah, no,
possible.
I'm not there.
that's-
Yeah, we
that
discussed.
sucks.
Yeah, we
Well,
discussed
that's
this before. It's like the male equivalent of feminism. It just
Right.
encourages you to be as hedonistic as you can.
Correct.
That's a good way to say
Go
it.
find a wife, have kids, right? I went from I was an alcoholic before I met my wife. I was a good alcoholic. I was a very good drinker, and I was fun to be around, right? And I have all kinds of fun stories.
An
And
old
stuff.
school alcoholic.
Right. Then I meet my wife by the time I'm like 26, right? And we start dating. We date for like 3 years, and we get married. We've been married for 10 years. I went from a person, I was just talking to my wife about this the other day. It used to be like on a Friday night, we'd be like, hey, let's get out by like 7, 8 o'clock, go to the bars, we'll have fun. We weren't insane by that point. Like the most insane stuff I was doing was when you should be doing it, when you're 18, 19.
Sure.
Yeah. So by the time I'm 26, but I'm still going out. Now it's like a fun night for me is like, hey, me and my wife, we're taking my son to the monster truck rally in Pittsburgh here in 3 weeks. It's going to be a blast. Like and some of my old friends that never grew up, they're 40 like me now, and they're still going out to the bar every day. And they're like, oh, Rob, your wife won't let you come out. No, she will. I just don't want to anymore.
I've
Because I
grown up.
found someone.
Nice.
And there's more value to life. Now, don't get me wrong, I'll still go out once in a blue moon, but that's.
Throw a couple
like,
back with
so-
the boys.
Yeah, so I'm not saying then that, you're not going to hear me either be this person that's like, the wife shouldn't be allowed to work. She should have to do whatever the man. I ain't saying that shit either. Right? All I'm saying is traditionally, there's a reason that traditional gender roles exist. And that's because traditionally they've worked. And society worked when we were more embracing that.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, you do see this world where feminism has culturally infiltrated so much so that women are buying this hook, line, and sinker. And you see this sort of OnlyFans culture or the I'm just going to hook up with dudes until I'm 30 culture. But eventually, if the right stops giving into it, and if men start being men again, and I don't mean men again like smacking women around,
Right.
or, well, I'll just bang, but start being men like, no, I'm looking for a suitable person that I can spend the rest of my life with. I think that you'll see that pendulum swing with women. I'm not saying that 70% of women are voting for Don Jr.
Right.
in 2028 or some shit, but I think you'll start to see that swing back.
Can you pull that super chat up real quick? Is that possible? I just want to read that out.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Link.
great point. Hold tight.
Garrett Link. It's also the case that unmarried women of all categories are more likely to be victims of every single violent crime.
Interesting.
True.
Yeah, it probably helps you,
Thank you, Garrett.
get abused less if you have a dude that likes you around. So
It really is. I mean, and not only that, if you want to then look at children, the statistics are incredible of children that grow up in 2-parent biological households. Like it is unbeatable as a way to live your life for the betterment of the husband, the wife, and the kids.
Well, sure, an argument could be made too is like, even if you're a man's man, you might have a daughter. And so it's like there's always literal logical value in understanding both sexes. It's something that's worth learning. And I think if you study both of them, you'll find that there's overlapping. Like women are not insane. Some are, so are some men. But for all the weird shit that women do, there's types and patterns, and it's really not anything malicious. Just like children aren't usually malicious. And most men that start screaming at their wives, they're not horrible people. They just maybe don't know how to express themselves in a healthier way or something like that. So, I mean, we all...
Let me ask you two elderly gentleman.
Yes.
For some advice then.
With the gray hair.
All right. Well, dude, yeah, I'm starting to go too.
So every time I try and have this conversation with a group of girls, I end up feeling like RFK Jr. in the 90s telling people there's mercury in the fish. Yeah. They don't believe me, but I know that it's true. How do I have this in a reasonable way without them getting angry?
Well, it's difficult. I was going to say this real quick, and then maybe that will give some insight. Here's the thing, right? When you're looking at life advice, it's not just who's the smartest. Sometimes there are things that you've lived through that even if you yourself can't process it, other people could learn from. So let me give you an example. There was a time in my life where I would have thought, hey, I'd like to be hooking up with all the hottest chicks or whatever. That'd be the greatest thing. My grandpa worked in coal mines. He's an old surly prick. All he did was make fun of me. I remember one time I went to visit him in the nursing home with my friend, and he kept calling us the backdoor boys. Making agents. My friend was like, I'll never come here again. What the fuck? We're like 16-year-olds. I thought it was, but I loved it. I thought my grandpa was hilarious. I loved the fact that he picked on me. Strong dude, man. Strong as shit. And he's in the nursing home with my grandma who had Alzheimer's. She passed away. He's a shell of himself. He was like this toughest dude I knew. And then all of a sudden, he didn't have to say anything. Just watching that loss that he had, that was everything. He died like a year and a half later. He had nothing to live for. And I remember thinking about that, wow, no one has to tell me why marriage is important, why spending 50 years, they were married for 52 years, I think, when she passed.
Wow.
It's incredible when you see that. No words. He wasn't a very articulate man. He wasn't well-read, but that meant everything to him. And I think that women should see that too. Men and women should look for counsel for older people because it has nothing to do with intelligence. Living through some shit will show you something. And now the time John, you're pretty close to my age. I'm 40, right?
Pretty close.
You start to realize wow, all this shit that you put priorities on, hookup culture and all, it's so dumb. So how I'm not probably the best person to answer this because I'll be honest. You want to know how I met my wife? I got lucky. We were at a party and her friend was dating my younger brother, and she was a little drunk and I was a little drunk, and she said, I'm a really great cook and I love cleaning, and I'd bring a lot of great things to a marriage. What would you bring? And I said, a good backhand. And she started laughing, and that was it. That was basically how we met. And we both of us were kind of never really super into the dating scene, and we just started hanging out, and that's it. So I don't know. I'll say this. The pitfalls that you will have to navigate will be far worse than what I did, as far as just the insanity. Because if I made a drunken ass of myself, probably that would be it. If you make a drunken ass of yourself, that chick will then go to Instagram and put up whatever message you sent her, and you'll be made fun of the rest of your life.
The problem is, and I try to make this point to the older crew, why don't you have a girlfriend, son? I'm well, it used to be in your day that the two hottest people in the town would then date each other and then get married.
Sure.
Now the hottest guy in the town is sitting there lonely while the hottest girl in the town is in the DMs of some NBA player.
On OnlyFans or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know.
The internet changed so much, though, is the point I'm trying to make with the whole online dating.
Sure, yeah. Well, so I think Rob gave you some good points. I would say the same. It's you guys have it a lot harder. There's consequences. Because something that makes you endearing to women is making a bit of a fool of yourself, but you do that the wrong way now, and you're now apparently committing a crime or something like that. And there used to be a time where you could expect them to have enough intelligence to find the humor in what you were doing, but I don't know they don't think it's funny anymore or whatever. They're looking for reasons to not like you or something like that. But like Rob is saying, I think it is kind of a numbers game. It's like sales. If you're never going out and doing things and don't have a social circle, it's pretty fucking hard. Again, right off the bat, Rob's wife knows his acquaintances, so they know he's not a piece of shit. They know he's that. It qualifies you when it's someone within your own friend group. Yeah, he's a good dude. And it's amazing how far that will go for you. But you do have to look at the woman herself and be like, is this somebody I could, see myself spending a significant amount of time with or potentially the rest of my life with? And I agree. I don't know how many women your age that you look at and say, I don't see it. I look at them and I'm like, good Lord, it's terrible.
I have a brother that's 24, and his story, he'll tell me stories. He'll be like, man, I went out on a date with this chick. And he's like, within 5 minutes, I'm like, I can't do this.
Yeah.
Because he's thinking of it I want to find someone to spend my life with. He's not looking at it I just want to hook up with someone tonight. He's legitimately looking for someone to spend his, and there wasn't date. I remember, this is how old I am. I remember ICQ and Instant Messenger. That shit came out when I was in 11th grade. And it was the weirdest thing. oh, that one girl you liked from the high school that you play football against, you could message her and be like, hey, what's happening? And all your friends were like, yeah, like that was the coolest shit ever, you know, but you weren't really getting dates that way. You were dating people that you went to school with.
Yeah.
You were going out on a Friday night, right? And you were chopping firewood all afternoon so that you could have a fire and a party that night. Everybody was hanging out in person. You were in all these extracurriculars. You played football. You were in band, whatever your thing, it doesn't matter. You were hanging out with individuals. Now it's like this space is so detached where it's like everyone has these. It's one of the things like that blows my mind, taking it back to that Destiny situation where it's like, I never got into streaming with the like goal of certainly not meeting women, but even necessarily making friends or having like a social. I have a social network. I'm a 40-year-old man that has tons of real life friends, tons of real life family. I live in a small rural town here in Pennsylvania. All my neighbors would instantly pull their shotgun out if they saw a strange person walking on my property. Like, that's my life. But what if it wasn't? What if you're a 20-year-old dude and your whole life's, your whole social circles, well, I met people because I watched this streamer Destiny. So all my friends are other online people that watch him.
Yeah.
Oh, and I'll DM this girl on Discord and see if she'll go out on a date with me. Like, that's, to me, it's like I could hardly give any advice in that situation because I'm like, it's almost like, it's like looking at like, if I could get in a time machine and someone in ancient Rome was like, got any advice for me on dating women? I'd be like, I don't have the first thing to say because I don't understand the culture. You know, I really don't.
Well, I think you're right too, Mihai, about the sliding into the DMs of NBA players if she's good looking from a small town. Like, I think that has changed. And I don't really know what the answer is, but the women seem to believe they have way more options than
Well,
men
and
do.
this town makes that point particularly hard, where every woman in my age group is a college student who knows they're only going to be here for 4 years, and they're just trying to get plowed as many times as possible in that 4 years.
Well, that's, and listen, not to get into red pill territory, because I don't think I'm anywhere close to being as knowledgeable or as giving a shit like the red pill guys do about this. I care about it, but from a, like, I want people to have families and procreate and like have Christian values. That's what I want. But it is true that biologically, what women bring to the table is like reproduction and being a matriarch, like a motherly figure. And what men bring to the table is protection and resource gathering, right? And what happened was, once that deal sort of breaks and we have this whole, you know, free love revolution where it's like sex for sex sakes, you can see the gradual how things have gone downhill from then. So I'm sure you are all aware of the studies that show that it's like the top 10% of desirable men are sleeping with like 80% of women.
Yep.
Because the women will just, they don't care. They're, you know, a guy will just be like, I'll bang you, I'll bang a different chick tomorrow night, I'll bang a different chick. And they're just banging whoever. But the women, they want these top 10% of people. And then what happens is that leads a bunch of other men that formerly, and it's not this crude, but it basically on average reaches out this way. If you rated people on desirability from 1 to 10, 4s were with 4s, 7s were with 7s. But now it's like women, it's like 4 through 10s are with the 10s. And then the 9s and down of guys are like, but what's left for us? And so then what happens is those guys end up putting up with more bullshit, right? Because they're desperate. They need someone. So they'll be with the chick. And you see, how many times do you see these shitty ass channels where it's like the guy in the street with the microphone, like, hey, tell me about your situation here. Would you cheat your boyfriend? Oh my God, yeah, I'd like cheat on him. Totally, with like Kendrick Lamar and blah, blah, blah. And the guy's just standing there like a doofus. And if you're just yelling at that guy, like, have some self-respect. Tell that chick she's walking
Like
out.
Matthew McConaughey in Interstellar. No!
Right. That's exactly it. And so, like, it's such a desperate situation where it's like, for me, it's like, you know, the advice I would personally give, like the advice I give my brothers, like, get off Tinder, go to church, go do some.
I tried that,
volunteer.
Rob. I tried that.
I know it's, dude. My whole situation, everything I have going for me in life is because I'm one of the most privileged, lucky people in history. Not because I'm white, but because I had 2 parents that gave a shit, because I stumbled into having an awesome wife. I stumbled into having an awesome son. I have fantastic neighbors. That's it. And so I feel weird trying to give advice because I'm like, here's what you do. Get really lucky. That's my advice to you, you know?
I hope for that. I'll tell you what the problem with me going to church was. 1, it felt wrong to go into a church and then be looking around like, all right, which one of these girls can I go home with? 2, every girl that I was looking around with was already there with a boyfriend or a husband. Yeah. And I was like, well, I guess that does add up.
But the point is, it's like anything with luck. Like they say, luck is what happens when opportunity meets preparation. The same is true of anything in life. Like if you're living your life is a desirable person, the chances of you finding a desirable person are better. So if you're a cad and you're out there just trying to hook up with random chicks on a Friday night at the bars in State College, all right, then that's sort of the chance
You'll find some female equivalents.
That's right. But and even though there's no guarantees in life. You might live. I know guys like this that are in their 40s that I would be like, damn, what a nice guy. Like that guy would be a great provider, but he's still single. What's going on?
Well, that's what. Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. I mean, I think a legitimate question to ask yourself is: are you the kind of guy that wants a wife? Maybe you're not.
Yeah, I mean, it's different for everyone. But I understand the frustrations, and I understand the frustrations of young men better than young women. But young women have a point to be frustrated as well, right? Like you know.
They were sold a bit of lies or whatever however you phrase that saying, you know what I'm trying to say. But they were told that everything they're doing now was the way to go, and everything that they've done since the sex revolution has made life worse.
They are God's gift to men. They can never do anything wrong. Anybody that says you're 2 pounds overweight is an asshole because it can't possibly be true, and blah 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 blah. Yeah, so their egos. I think that's why women are like, I don't want to date you. I'm waiting for fucking LeBron to text me back.
Yeah, and we also talked about this before. We also talked this.
Go ahead, Jack.
We also talked about this before, guys. In relation to men, women have it much easier in terms of educational attainment, and so it's much harder for them to find a partner with equivalent social status. So it gets hard for them to find someone. There's not enough.
So like more women graduate from college now than men, and I think more women go to like advanced degrees. So there's a ton of women who have like doctorate degrees to say, I can't find a man because none of them have doctorate degrees. I mean, you can't do anything about that. They're idiots, and they should. Is a man with a doctorate degree, are you out there saying I must find another female doctor? I don't think a single dude thinks that.
What are the odds the man with a doctorate degree can change a tire?
Yeah, well, on top of which is it's totally irrelevant to how smart you are. I mean, I don't have a fucking doctorate degree, and I've met lots of doctor people that are like, wow, why don't you have a PhD? And I'm just like, why do you? So people don't date a girl who values her doctorate degree is kind of the point.
Yeah, but men never have. Right, go ahead, Jack. You're going to say what I was going to say. Go ahead.
A man doesn't care what education a woman has. I wouldn't doubt that a guy with a college degree would marry a woman without one, or without even a high school degree, because that's how little they care about it.
You would see a billionaire like Elon Musk that in a heartbeat would marry a waitress at some diner if she was like attractive, if she met like. I think she'd be a good mother. Like those just biologically are things that men, they're looking for a mate. They're looking for people they find attractive, right? Women are sort of again, this is all in general, are looking for providers. And so as such, there's a lot of studies that seem to suggest that women have a difficult time having long-term relationships or getting married to people that they perceive as lower social status than themselves. Now, you do see this sort of cougar stereotype of woman where it's like, well, you get the eye candy, muscular dude, the yoga instructor that's teaching, the billionaire's wife, she's leaving her wife, What chance here's a way of putting it. What chance do any of us have when the greatest damn quarterback in history, Tom Brady's wife, left him for,
Dude, that was a big hit to all of mankind. I totally agree.
That was a tough pill to swwall.
Yeah. It's like, how much more successful can he be?
I bought a lot of flowers that day.
Yeah. That's rough. Poor Tom, man. Now he's like, he's talking X's and O's every week on podcasts about football. It's like, oh, man.
I mean, maybe that's the advice we've just teased out, is to accept the fact that you are not in control of it. Like, you got to be yourself, and if you want to develop a skill, don't develop your pickup artist game. Develop your fucking radar for slutty, crazy bitches. Learn how to spot crazy pussy, as Matthew McConaughey would have said in fucking True Detective.
The problem is, though, everything we just said about how guys are so lonely, they just jump at any opportunity they get.
Yep.
There's no radar anymore.
It just takes a crumb.
Maybe this is bad advice. I don't know. But I think men also need to, if you're lonely, another thing you could do is find dudes to hang out with.
Friend group.
Right? Like friend groups.
Good point.
I mean, men clubs used to be big. Where my little town that I grew up in, New Bethlehem, the fucking Eagles Club and the Moose Club were happening, man. Just a bunch of dudes getting together after 5 o'clock, sharing a couple beers, bitching about their job. That means something. It really does.
Bitching about their wife, yeah.
Well, whatever, yeah. But it means something. It is cathartic. Men are designed to hang around and have fun with other men.
100%.
And again, I think part of the loneliness thing is, yeah, there's certainly, you want a woman that you could have a long-term relationship, get married, and hopefully have kids with. But when that doesn't happen, so many men just give up and they turn insular and they're like, whatever, I'm just going to play Warcraft all day or whatever. And it's like, no, get out there and do shit.
I know 20 dudes who would all love hanging out with each other that are all living by themselves out in the woods.
Yep.
No, yeah. To your point, though, I was going to say it seems almost today. I know you're saying the moose clubs and stuff like that have died down, but I think in rural areas it's still much more common to find groups of guys that hang out. The reason I lived in the city for a year and the reason I left the city for a year, because after a while you do start to feel like you're living in the pod. You go to your apartment every night, you sit down, you watch TV, and you go to bed. You don't ever actually see anybody, but you're in the city with a bunch of other people that are also like two ships in the night passing by.
Is this not sort of what the movie Fight Club in some ways was kind of getting at?
Still haven't seen it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And is it? What was I always like to bring up the very opening of True Detective, another movie. And I'm using fictional references, but it's a great point. Jack Nicholson's monologue says, "In the beginning, we had the church, which is really just a way of saying we had each other. These great, huge, all community encompassing church groups that existed were community first and then religion. It just happened to be a church, is what he's saying. And yeah, that is completely vanished, whether male spaces have been, I hate to use their language, but whether male spaces have been infiltrated by females, like Boy Scouts, gone. I wouldn't take my kid there, my son. Like, it's just, but what it has created, in my opinion, and I think what we're trying to do here is everyone's looking for a place, in my opinion, like this, that doesn't really exist yet. And it is, in a sense, a church. Not that anybody wants to move away from their religion or their beliefs or anything, but I don't know if any of you guys go to church or have. What kind of drove me away from Catholicism was just like, I come here and I feel no community. Everyone just sits there, doesn't talk to anybody, stares at the fucking priest, and then goes home. And so what's missing is the place where, like, number one, you wake up Sunday morning or whatever day and you're like, I want to go to this place. Like, just having that feeling to wake up and have somewhere that you want to fucking go. That's kind of gone. Thank you, Cornish Co.
11 months.
Incredible. 11 months.
Yeah, I just want to know, like, at what age is it acceptable to go to the diner and, like, with all the boys in the morning? When do we start meeting up every morning at, like, 10 o'clock?
Well, you're just entering that sphere of adult Americanhood or whatever, and I'd be glad to do that kind of stuff. I mean, we're trying to, have meetings on certain schedule. You see how hard it is. It's like fucking herding cats. And I'm of the opinion that it's hard to herd kids your age because you don't really believe it's going to work out, and I don't fucking blame you. And so you
have to make time for social life. Maybe that social life's like you're 40, you're me, you have a 4-year-old. So I spend less time with my friends now than I did before, but it's not like an acrimonious relationship. I'm still friends with them. It's just they understand I'm busy, I'm working on. But you have to have something to fill that void. By the way, the same's true of women. Right? I grew up, I watched my mom going insane, right? Because she never left the house. Her whole world was us kids and her husband. That was it. My dad would leave for work. Mom would stay at home, be stay-at-home mom, right? And we had medical issues and stuff that came up in the family as well. But now I watch my mom would be going to like her favorite bands like Korn. And it's like she'll go to Korn concerts. She used to make fun of me when I was 16. I'd be going to Ozfest and shit. She'd be like, who are these crazy bands? Now she's going to see the bands I was going to see 25 years ago. And she's got like other friends that she goes with. And she's like, the 60-year-old lady that's there with like face paint on. She's having a fucking blast. And I tell my wife that all the time. I'm like, you need to keep friends. You need to have a social life outside of just your immediate family. The immediate family is obviously most important, but you have to have people that you could just unwind with. To me, the most important thing of all of my friends, I don't give a shit I have gay friends, straight friends, atheist friends. I have friends that are like high-powered attorneys, friends that are the lowest level of drunken hillbilly trash, who I love. You know, that's where I come from anyways. And for me, you know what the number one thing around them is? I could absolutely be myself.
Yes.
I could throw around a slur that would get me fired if someone heard it. They don't give a fuck. They don't care if they're gay, black, none of them give a shit. We could all be ourselves. Now compare that to like if you're with your girlfriend or your wife and you have to go meet people you've never met and you have to sit there, hi, how you doing? Yeah, I work down here. That shit sucks. You want people that you could be yourself around and you're not going to be judged like a piece of shit for it.
Maybe.
In fact, you will be judged, but in a humorous way, which makes it even better, you know?
Well, it's maybe a teasing out another good piece of advice for you young guys and what to look for in developing your radar is have that conversation on a date or first or second date of be like, hey, I'm of the belief that like, yeah, I want to spend time with you and I think people in our relationships should spend time together. But a healthy adult relationship means we also learn to develop separate male-female friend groups, and occasionally we do different things. And like having time apart is just as important as having time together. And so make sure the girl you're sitting across from you at the fucking Sizzler or wherever you take her understands that. You say like, hey, you know, what do you think about like boyfriends having male friends and girlfriends having girlfriends, and like on a Saturday night, maybe the dude goes out with his friends and the girl goes out with her friends. See what she says. And she's like, no, I think a couple should spend every waking minute together doing everything together. Then fucking run the other way. Because that ain't going to work. It's just, she doesn't even want that. She just doesn't know it. She'll drive you crazy and you'll eventually be like, I know what you need. You need to go out with your fucking female friends and get the fuck away from me for a little bit.
For me, I think one of the things that, and who knows, like I know all the Destiny fans are waiting for my impending divorce. So 4 years from now, this will be clipped out. But I think one of the reasons that my marriage works good, and I think my wife would agree with me, is because I do spend half the week at work, right? And when I'm gone, I'm gone 24/7. And so it's like, she'll tell me all the time, she'll be like, I'll start to get in her nerves. She'll be like, you got to work in like 3 hours now. The clock's ticking here. Like, you know. But she doesn't
absence
have that
makes the heart grow fonder, right, Rob?
That's right. She doesn't have that opportunity, right? She's at home, right, with my son. She's stay-at-home mom right now. And so I tell her it's important for her. Like she goes out, I won't go into details. They're the Clam Jam crowd, her and her friends, and they go out and they'll just do dumb shit. They went out to the casino in Pittsburgh, you know, and and they're going to some shit-ass country show here in a couple weeks out in Pittsburgh. But that shit's important. Like you have to, in order to be the best partner possible, you have to be able to be yourself around people. You can't be 24/7 in the family dynamic. It'll drive you crazy, man. And God bless the people that came before us. Like I always thought my dad, like growing up, I thought my mom and dad were like just boring ass people. And then as I got into adulthood and I would talk to like the people their age, they'd be like, "Oh, your fucking parents were crazy.
Yeah.
They used to have all this fun with us."
Yeah.
They gave that shit up for me. They gave that shit up because they had to work. My dad never graduated high school, so okay, dude, get on that roof, start carpenting, you know. That's what he did. Working all kinds of shit jobs, 60, 70 hours a week. So I never had to miss a meal.
Exactly.
Like fat bastard you see in front of you. Like, you know, like honestly, like it for me, it's like that was an inspiration and I want to learn from that and build on it. So I'm trying to have a situation where, you know, it doesn't have to be that my wife never has to leave the house.
Right.
And she's fucking ends up going crazy because she's dealing with me and my shithead little brothers, which, you know, you would only deal with us for like an hour and you'd be like, I could get out of here. She did it 20 years, you know?
Right. Hey, not to, but can you pull that super check up? Is you able to find that? I didn't want to cut Rob off and read it.
William Jefferson Clinton.
Yes. Do you have it?
Oh, Bill
Clinton.
I can read it off.
Go ahead, Jack. There it is.
Let's do Sizzler and all you can eat salad bar.
Nice. Yeah, just to remind everybody watching, if you want to switch to PTZ2, at 20 super chats, I will take this Land Shark beer and I will chug it out of this Russian helmet. That's what's going on if you're just joining. Oh, nice. Good job, producer.
Whoa.
Wow.
That's crazy.
Look at that. He's controlling it. Yeah, this.
It's kind of doing its own thing, though. I'm trying to, like, fight it.
I will also.
We're gonna go back to
I will
preset one.
drink some shitty beer I have here with you, and I put
There
the
you
link
go.
up on my chat. So go over that link, follow it right there. That's to their live stream right now. So let's get them to 20 super.
That's
chat.
unfortunately become our super chat motivator. Is it's like, all right, if you want to, we'll make absolute fools of.
I've tried this new thing. I've told them the past couple shows if they get our channel to 1,000 subscribers, the Ciderhaus specific one, that I will personally walk a bucket of water to California.
Yeah,
For
personally,
1,000.
1,000 subs
In one night, though, and not like when we
okay.
if we hit it tonight, I'll do it. not like 3 weeks from now. I'm not going to hold myself to the same standards.
I appreciate that. By the way, Medema Rose says the studio looks great. Yeah, it's a constant construction process where I don't know if you can get it with the PTZ, but we're putting up all the sound panels now, so that's why I didn't get a video out today. Number 2.
Yep, that's my bad.
Yeah. Oh yeah, John. I'm looking over at Rob's chat right now, and you guys would be happy to know that,
in
they're
progress.
shitting up.
I got Moosehead. See, this was before tariffs on Canada. I bought this Moosehead. This will be a collector's item.
Here's the tour.
By the end of the year.
And William Jefferson of Clinton again. Thank you, Bill Clinton, for the $1. Appreciate that.
Yeah, but John, I'm looking over at Rob's chat right now, and you guys will be happy to know that they're shitting on me for still having my Christmas tree up in my basement.
Yeah. It's been like a month in a row. We've had like 7 shows since fucking January 1st, and Jack's had that up the whole time. Dr. Tetanus. Hello, SARS. Mr. Rob has said, small man destiny has opened many cloth. Please, SAR. How is this possible? SAR, please help me. SAR, big love, help.
Oh, destiny. Yeah, you know.
And another $1 from, what's our total super chat count?
We are right now at 5 out of 20.
5.
Right, you're going to make it.
I think we
still
got
got an hour?
6 at least, right?
Yeah.
I hope we don't make it, Rob. That's the main point. Oh,
Get
no.
19.
See, Bill Clinton is caught on.
It just jumped to 7, so I think
Bill Clinton's. See, I was waiting for someone to just start dropping $1 ones. I was like, $21 ones is going to happen instantly, and it never has. And now he's cracked the code.
Jesus loves you.
Thank you, Jesus, lovely. Thank you, Matera.
They're all coming in.
All right, well, now I'm regretting plugging that. Thank you guys.
Oh, wow.
No, truly.
That's a cool
Yeah.
graphic, too. Look at that. Wow.
See, that's why you have to put a dollar amount on it, and as opposed to a number of chats. Because I remember one time someone donated like 100 something to me, and I was all excited. And then someone else was like, "Yeah, that's like shit pesos or something."
Oh, that
They
happened.
just
Yeah.
got 73 cents.
Yeah.
Oh, I always have the fun. I used to, way back when I was like in my teens, I ran into this dude who used the program Fruity Loops to make me. Anyway, I made rap beats and I sold them online. Of course, I never sold any, but I finally sold one. This dude emails me. He's like, I want to buy your rap beat for $100. And I'm like, all right, sweet. So he buys it. I look at it later in my PayPal account, like a week later. I got like $90. And I was like, what the fuck? It said 100. It's Canadian dollars.
Ah,
He fucking paid. I was like,
give me it back. Yeah. First off, I'm not selling shit to anyone in Canada. You know? Enjoy your tariffs. Oh,
all right. So he's declaring that is 20
Does that
individual.
count?
I'll respect it. That's fine. That's fine.
Now wait,
Okay,
don't say that yet. You can chum other people in. You can say, yeah, we'll do that.
Well,
But
we're not
maybe
not.
we're not trying to squeeze $21 donations out of people. I mean, realistically.
Right.
Thank you, William Maines, by the way,
a lot
who's
of bills
done the
in the
artwork
chat.
on it. Oh, there are. I mean, I'll hit a point, Rob, where I'll become a serious businessman. But like, I don't know. I just always wanted my channel in this place to be not predicated on that sort of thing.
That's how I do these goofy shit sometimes. Like I used to do karaoke streams, and because debate, I could talk fast, so I could do a little rap.
Yeah.
And so I got drunk there 4 months ago or so, and I was like, if I would get like $50 super chat, I will sing "Forgot About Dre" at double speed. And then it took like 10 seconds. I was like, "Here, asshole." So then somewhere there's a stream of me online trying as fast as humanly possible to sing Eminem and Dre. So.
We're good. I'll do it. You don't have to send any more super chats, but thank you, Bandit. Yeah, we'll do this one.
It says 10 out of 20. I don't even know.
Yeah, but Bill Clinton
I know.
explained himself and was he would have just sent them separately and we would have agreed. So I think I'll agree to it this time.
Yeah, it's fair.
That's fair.
Sorry, you guys can
You
keep
gotta
talking. You can keep talking while I hate my life.
He's gonna, there you go.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna check out of a helmet or anything.
Oh, that one finally popped.
Jeez. That thing was pressure loaded. And it was a twist off, too. So now you kind of look.
Yeah.
Yeah, true.
All right. Ask Rob about his rap god.
Rap god. You want to?
That's what we call me.
You
'cause-
want to PTZ
Yeah,
me
go
real
ahead,
quick?
throw a
Yeah, I
beat
got
out. Yeah. No, it's because I talk fast when I'm debating. Right. So in policy debate, this is how you would talk. We'll see. We'll try to do something here. So I see John's going to drink this beer out of a helmet. I'm assuming it's not the first time he's ever drank a bill of a helmet. He looks like the type of guy to be drinking stuff all the time. I wonder if he'd be able to drink whiskey, bourbon, something like that. But no, of course he's going to go with Landshark because he's probably a pussy. Would only be able
fucking
to
Twista.
like that. Would it be yeah? So that's how you talk in policy debate in college. Everybody's taught. That's
All right,
actually
there
slow.
it is. Oh, I really don't like doing this.
Why'd you pour it directly on the leather like a funnel?
I wanted that leathery taste.
I
Nice.
would have worked around that.
I wanted that aged land shark. Yeah, it's getting all on the leather. It's getting it. What rush do you think this was? Putin's old helmet? What was the front of
Yeah.
it?
Sent to you by Tucker. Yeah.
All right. It's got
Tucker actually brought it back for
got
me.
some kind of stamp in there. 55. I looked it up one time. I actually think it's a Ukrainian helmet is what I found out.
Oh, the irony.
No, yeah, right. So anyway, it's going to take me a little bit. I'm fucking almost 40.
Let's see it.
Ooh, you can really hear that slurping too.
Oh, I'm impressed.
Ooh, get it down.
Oh, I look like
my
Destiny.
goodness.
Oh,
I look like Destiny in that video.
I'm gonna wipe your chin a little bit.
Oh, Steven. Steven. All right, that was terrible. We need to get more guests so I don't have to keep doing that.
yeah.
There's plenty other lefties we
That
can shit on.
it tasted like leather and some iron, maybe. Some sort
That's
of,
the when I had to do it. Like I could see the metal shard.
Oh, there's still
floating
some more in there.
towards my mouth.
Yeah,
And
but Rob, you brought up a good subject. So, Destiny's controversy aside, it's caused a bunch of ripple. It's caused a ripple effect amongst the progressive streaming world, and progressive victory is kind of in a disarray right now because they centered their entire brand off of Destiny. So some streamers are just distancing themselves away from him, and others are just trying to downplay what he's done. And it seems as though Brianna Wu has gone with trying to downplay what he's been doing, or what happened.
She's very upset with the other people. I'm gonna do a stream talking about the yo. What about the guy who broke the story? He's bad. What about
Princess
all these other
Sunday?
people?
Yeah.
Well, Destiny was bad too. I don't know if you know, but I talked to senators. I was in Gamergate. Yeah, we got it, Brianna. Yeah, I mean, put yourself in his position. Does that dude have any friends? Does he? There's this one
Genuine
dude that's
friends?
like-
Probably not.
right. So there's this guy Dan that he's a co-host with. Dan's sticking by Destiny, which I sort of find admirable. By the way, I don't give a shit. If you're watching and you're a fan of Destiny, you're already fucked up your life anyways. But you keep watching, I don't give a shit. It's not going to diminish my opinion of you.
it probably is. It probably came from like freaking Chernobyl.
Chernobyl.
Yes,
and shit,
it did indeed taste like Ukrainian radiation. The control rods were lifted out too fast. You guys see that stupid Chernobyl show on HBO?
Yeah.
Do you like how how they put that woman engineer in there who like solved everybody's problems? And so I was like, who was that in history? And I looked it up. This woman is a fictional character who represents all the scientists who helped solve the problem.
The four men that were put to the gun.
How many female
Fuck them.
nuclear engineers were in the Soviet Union when fucking like whatever that happened?
If they were German. Hey, have I ever told you my Chernobyl theory?
You been there?
No, but so my dad was very close to it when it exploded. So my theory is that the reason all my lymph nodes grow now is because my dad's sperm was so close to Chernobyl when that thing went off.
Why ain't his lymph nodes growing?
Funny enough, they've never found another recorded case in history where two family members have had the same problem, but my cousin also has the same problem.
Oh.
Well, you're an
Bill Clinton.
Not very good though when you have to try and talk to a doctor and be like, "Well, I've never fucking seen this before."
take pictures of this shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I drank the water at Camp Lejeune, Bill Clinton. Bill, did you drink the water at Camp Lewinsky?
Yeah. It depends on what the definition of the word is.
Yeah.
So you wonder where these debate tactics came from. Again, the younger people won't
That's a
remember
great
those.
reference. I was going to say, Mihai, you know what that means?
No, I don't,
That's
but I just
Bill
found that
Clinton-
funny.
Bill Clinton's trial for the Lewinsky thing. He said it depends on what your definition of the word is, and he won that way.
Yeah. There's a comedian named Louis
Take
Black.
notes.
He has like a funny bit about that.
Oh, Louis Black, is he still alive?
Yeah.
He
Yeah,
is?
he still is. Yeah. Old man now. Fuck, he was old then. He's probably 50.
I know who he was great. He was very irreverent.
Yeah. And he's like, what the definition of the word is it's the verb to be. It's the basis of the English language. That's why you went out to get your willy whacked in the first
So
place.
actually, let me ask Jack and Mihai this. Do you know why Norm Macdonald sort of fell off the main stage of stardom? It has to do with the
Because
Clintons.
of O.J. Simpson. He
Well-
made fun of O.J. Simpson.
Well, it was O.J. Simpson, but it was also the Clintons.
It's because he
Oh,
kept calling
really?
Hillary a bitch.
Yeah, he fucking railed. Go watch old Norm Macdonald videos about Hillary Clinton. You'll fucking laugh
Watch him
your
on
ass
The
off.
View. Did you ever see that old clip of him on The
I
View?
thought it was a matter of
Yeah.
fact.
He hated him.
Yeah,
He's like, yeah, Bill
Dude,
Clinton murdered that
I
guy.
fucking
They're
love
like,
Norm.
I thought it was a
so
matter
much.
of public record.
Yeah.
He
All
smoked
right,
the cigars
man.
from Camp Lewinsky, says Bandit 848. Dude, Norm Macdonald is, if you ever fight, like, he's one of those kind of cult favorite guys, and you're like, man, I don't really understand why everybody likes him. Yes, he's fucking hilariously funny, but the courage he had to first of all, the OJ thing is incredible. On Weekend Update on SNL that got him fired, he just goes like, he just went nonstop against OJ, but also the Clintons. And I think he gave a speech at some political thing, wasn't it? Like the equivalent of the whole...
Oh, the White House press correspondence.
Yes.
Like 98.
That is when he went off on the Clintons and really went off on Hillary. Yeah. Oh, it's one of my favorite videos.
It's great, man.
Everyone's just so uncomfortable, and he's just living in the bomb. He's just like, he's embracing it and just keeps going.
He's amazing. He's an amazing guy. One of the saddest things I've ever seen. Now that we know that he had cancer and he knew it and he didn't tell anyone.
Yeah, and he didn't tell anybody.
Which is badass on its own right. But he had this podcast, right? And then it got picked up like on Netflix or some shit, right? And imagine this. He's working with all these dudes. Like, it'd be similar to you, John, right? He's working with younger guys. They're like his friends. They basically, imagine when that podcast started with Norm, he's just like a fucking gambling drunk.
Is that I'm Not Norm? Is that the name of it?
Is that what it was called? It might be the name.
We're just sitting at a table with the one young.
It was the most like worst produced show ever.
Yeah, it was like he had a worse set than we did.
Yeah. And it got picked up like on Netflix or something. He got a deal. And then what was the controversy? He said, like he said something. It was like right after that show was about to come live, and they trotted his ass out in the View, and he had to apologize. And I was like, for me, what I assumed had happened was, if it was him and his career, he showed over and over again, I don't give a fuck, then fire me. He got fired from his dream job at SNL. Like, for being like the comedian that every comedian said was the funniest, he couldn't have a network show or anything because he was just too damn principled. So why would he go apologize? And for me, it was because it was his friends. He finally got this break for his friends. He knows he's dying. And he's like, well, shit, my big mouth got us in trouble. So he went out and he ate crow, and he had to talk to those goddamn harpies at the View and apologize.
What a guy.
I'm sure it killed him inside, but he did it for his friends, damn it. What a man.
I wish I could have had a beer with, I would have loved to have a beer with Norm Macdonald. Quickly, Henry L., thank you. Creature of the incentive system. Cheers. Thank you, Henry L.
It's great.
We're currently at 18 out of 20. I didn't stop it because selfishly I enjoyed it.
You going to do one if it hits 20?
I'll do one or a...
You got to do it on principle, Mihai.
All right, two more...
Axel Von Becker walks in here, I'll just make him do it as soon as he walks in.
Have you heard from him? So the whole reason we got Jack and Rob on one shared screen is because we were supposed to have another person who was showing up, and they still haven't yet. Any update on that?
He is currently on his way.
Oh, he is going to come for a little bit? All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's beer bonging shit out of a boot.
You don't want to know what he's doing right now. You don't want to.
Dude, we should make him drink out of one of our shoes or something. We used to back in rugby in college, we called that shooting the boot. Oorah, shoot that boot. Shoot that boot. And you had to chug a beer out of a fucking cleat after a game. It was terrible.
Oh, I've never done that.
Rugby, college rugby. So we were all like D3 shitty tiny schools and stuff. So nobody was that serious, and we were all like fucking drinking before the games. But there was a culture in rugby where you'd play this other school. So say, I don't know, we were in Pittsburgh. So say like Robert Morris or something like that.
Okay.
Every school for whatever reason had a rugby house. 4 or 5 guys. Usually one of them was the captain that would rent a house together. So you'd literally beat the ever-living fuck out of each other for 2 hours. And I mean, you'd be like fighting on the field and shit. And you know, but then as soon as the game ended, you'd all shake hands. This was just like something they taught you. They're like, this is what we do in rugby. And you'd have a drink up, you'd call it. All this Australian terminology. Let's go have the drink up at the rugby house. So these guys would come back to your house, like, 50 guys or 25 guys, depending on how big the school was. And you just throw this fucking absolutely monster party and get hammered with the dudes you just kick the shit out of each other with, and it was a fucking great time. But excuse me, there's all these little weird drinking things involved with it, and one of them was shooting the boot. So that's my. We
never did that. I certainly did some weird shit. Like,
did you play? You played?
I did not play rugby. I hung out with I was a debater who was friends with the rugby team. Okay. So that's not quite the same.
Did they up your skills in debating? Were they tough opponents?
Not debating. I think they just throw a fist,
So they did that shit you're saying? You like went to some,
they did. They would do crazy shit out the bar and stuff like that. My dad used to say all the time. My dad's kind of that type of dude. He's like, he'd be like, "Oh, so you won this debate tournament. What was the argument?" And I was like, "Well, we were talking about, Bush's executive order and whether or not we should have Aegis missile defenses on our our ships and stuff, my dad would just look at me. He's like, I'd have told him to suck my fucking dick. Surprisingly, that didn't work. You know, that was my first tactic. But,
that was Plan B, Dad. Don't worry.
And then when I ran for Congress, my dad's like, he's like, I got the perfect campaign slogan for you. Vote for Rob Noerr. Fuck that other guy. I was like, the problem is there's 23 other guys.
We'll run that through the focus group, Dad.
Yeah. But that's, you know, weirdly enough, that's the appeal of Trump. He's that kind of guy. You know, where it's like, like he comes out today. It's really bad idea, like from a strategic sense, for a normal politician. Trump comes out today, he's like, yeah, fucking DEI. That's why that helicopter. They don't know shit yet. He's just like, yeah, that's why. You know, and like, it's like, on one hand, it's like, Trump, no, hold off. You know, at least wait a week before you say that. But then on the other hand, you're like, yeah, fuck it. On one hand, we're going from a president that was literally like a human vegetable that the Easter Bunny had to, you know, walk around the White House to a guy that's just like, he'll say anything. He'll be, yeah, like they could convince Trump, I'm pretty sure, like, here's what we're going to do, Mr. President. We're going to get Dana White's going to get a fucking camera crew on you 24/7, and we're just going to broadcast it live to YouTube or Truth Social. And that'll be it, man. It'll be like you on the John. There'll be a camera like on your face. Like, I don't like this. I prefer the 2-ply paper, you know. And that'll be it. Trump don't give a shit. He'll say whatever. And because politics has been the opposite of that for so long, people eat that shit up. The average American's like, yeah, great. Someone that's finally saying shit. If you follow sports, it's the same thing in sports, right? Like, you listen to the quarterback after the game, and you know what they're supposed to say. You know, Josh Allen's supposed to say, oh, you know, what do you think about that guy that dropped the ball? Oh, it's my fault. I put him in a bad position. We'll get him next year. But then every once in a while, you get the athletes like, yeah, fuck that guy. He really screwed up. And we're all like, you can't say that. Why not? Don't we want people to be more authentic?
Yeah.
If you really feel like fuck that guy, then you say, yeah, screw him. I think he sucks. You know, not good for team building, but that's how I feel about politics. I'm so, on one hand, Trump's too much sometimes, right? And I understand why people feel that way. But to me, he is the appropriate cure for the disease of the pendulum's been so bad the other way for decades that I want, you know, if not Trump, I want some foul-mouthed sailor, you know, that's who I want at the podium.
He's a symptom.
Just like,
he's a symptom, not a cause.
Yeah. Fuck you, China. What are you going to do about it? Let's send GOP beat the fuck out of him. What are you going to do? Nothing. Like, that's what I want.
That's where this world we live in is going to. Like, 20 years from now, it's going to be like two presidents of two countries boxing each other on YouTube to settle war.
I mean, there's this cycle, at least version of this cycle has happened before. You see this pattern in ancient Rome, is the classic one, and things like that. So you start importing a bunch of foreigners in order to maintain your military and maintain your taxes, and you kind of overexpand, and then look at like Hawaii or Guam or those kind of places. Like, yes, they're American, but like you don't really control them. They're kind of a little too far away. Maybe you've overexpanded. Maybe some shit's happening there that's not a good thing. Maybe that was better off not being a state, that kind of thing. Anyway, also the rampant sexual degeneracy. And then Weimar Germany is maybe a more recent example, or things like that. But yeah, where these kinds of decaying cultures tend to lead, so the prevailing opinion and knowledge is anyway, is that it leads to a Caesar, a dictator. And so the left, this is common knowledge, the left likes to say that that's Trump. This is the Trump is quite clearly not a fucking I don't think people understand what that word means, maybe, if they think that he is. But I don't know. I'd like to pose that question to you, gentlemen. Are we headed for a Caesar?
Yeah, his name's Baron.
People say that.
It depends, right? The irony is, not if Trump does well.
Baron's maybe Octavian. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, the irony is, like, if Trump loses and they throw his ass in jail, then you might get Caesar, right? Trump's sort of the pressure release valve.
I agree.
Right? He's the, like, you know, okay, we feel like we did something without having to do the most extreme shit. You know, it's, on one hand, I deplore political violence. I've condemned all of it, even when it happens on the right. I call that out, right? And I still feel that way. But on the other hand, like, imagine what your forefathers would have done. Like, I used to, like, in my head think this. Imagine I die, and then all these people that I've read about and look up to, I end up in heaven or wherever. And, like, there's George Washington and Thomas Jefferson and Ben Franklin. and they're like, "Hey, I'm fun. Let's have a beer." And you drink a beer with them, and they're like, "So how's that country? Pretty badass we built for you there." And you're like, "Oh yeah, it's fucking great. It's good shit, you know." And they're like, "Yes, we're here. You know, things fell apart. What happened?" And I'll be like, "Well, we had a cold. Everybody got a cold, and we decided, you know, fuck that Constitution. We're just gonna lock everyone down, and that's basically it." And they're like, "Wait, what? You didn't get invaded. It was a fucking cold." yeah. You know, and I'm trying to think, like, what would they have done?
Kick the shit out of us if they fucking
Yeah,
time traveled.
they would have, like, personally went to Governor Wolf's mansion and been like,
Yeah.
"What the fuck are you doing?"
Just quickly, because we've had, I hate to cut, but we've had 3 run in, and we try to make a habit of reading them all off. So it was Jesus Loves You, gave us 19. Thank you. Just said one more. Aloha Snack Bar. Trump is more like Gracchus. The Gracchus brothers, if you know the history of Rome, they got assassinated. That's sort of what led to it. But yeah, that's a great comment, and that also made 20. And then Dr. Tetanus, once more into the breach. Mihi Mojito. It's Mihai. It's Hungarian for Michael. Mihaly.
Oh, that was to me. I didn't know what the hell.
I think that's what he's saying.
Yeah, I think you're probably right.
333. He's getting a little Masonic on us. So thank
Hey,
you. So we're
there's
21.
Trinity.
We have somebody coming, and we're going to make them take the next helmet. They should be here before we end the show. So if not, I'll do another one, or Mihai will do it. But
Yeah, I'll do it. It's my turn. If not,
all right. Sorry for cutting off whoever was talking.
No, that's it. Helmet business. No, I mean, that's really it, though. It's like, you know, wait, you try to warn people. You're like, look, you keep pushing. There will be, you know, it's a law of physics, man. There will be equal and opposite pressure pushed back, and you can only shove people so long. And so I hope that cooler heads prevail and Trump gets rid of a lot of this corruption. We'll see.
You said something really interesting to me, but I think because you were just kind of, so Trump is a pressure release valve. You would have the very, very black-pilled people on the right saying that it's all the same party. This is all a show. What would you say to those people? Having agreed that he is a pressure release valve.
I think I'm black-pilled to a certain extent on Trump as well. I think that he either will not have the gumption to do what's necessary, or he won't have the ability, right? I still think it's a long shot, even for I'm not saying Trump's not impressive, but if you had to make a character up, like in your head, is anyone capable of going against this amount of corruption? But what I don't get about first off, the black pill people, first thing is there's more important things in your life. Yes, even if the entire country goes down the shitter, your personal relationships with your family, how you carry yourself as an individual, that's more important than this shit. Like, as much as we'll sit here and wax politically, probably the truth is the shit happening at my local school board's 10 times more fucking important.
Right.
In the grand scheme of things.
Right.
That's probably true. So, like, the people that get super black-pilled, like, well, Trump won't do anything anyways. It's like, whoa, calm down. Secondly, it's like, then it just basically becomes nihilism. There is an argument to be had this. I think the system's so corrupt that anyone who gets elected only did so because the corrupt system allowed them. Therefore, they won't allow significant changes.
I think that goes for influencers and too, like in movie stars and musicians. And you don't make it these days unless you're on that team.
That's right. And so for me, what I say is the things that I think we'll wait and see with Trump. I'm more excited. I think he's, at least so far, the first couple weeks look better than last time.
For
so I'm
sure.
excited. It seems like he's being far more aggressive. But let's say it doesn't work out. I'm actually more excited about cultural shit anyways. Like, I'm more excited about the fact that you just have people, you know, the meme so far of his presidency is the JD Vance. Like, did you see, like, someone did the, like, Rockefeller-esque painting of him, like the old, you know,
oh
where
yes,
he's like smoking a pipe, and it just says, "I just don't care, Margaret." Like, yes, That's it, man. That sums it up. Like, we just don't give a shit. We don't give a shit.
Well, that's coming full circle, to what we were talking about earlier.
Did you guys see the massive executive order that Trump put out today?
Today, no.
Yeah, here. I think it goes off of what you guys are saying.
Now, wait a minute. I'm on YouTube. I don't know if you can play this. Right? I know what it's about to say.
Okay, I won't play it then. I won't play
it. He basically says, you can now use slurs amongst your friends.
Oh, well, real quick. Bandit 848, make homesteading great again. Thank you. So that's what he says. You use slurs.
It's not real. It's an AI video.
He's like, you can now call your friends the following
figs
slurs.
And guitars and
Rob just saved us from another demonetization.
There you go.
I don't think Mihai's run about 10 of these shows, and I don't think a single one of them has escaped demonetization.
So
I feel like most of the time it's like not necessarily my fault though. It's like another video has music in the background or some stupid thing like that.
So your fault then.
You got
Debatable, depending upon whose link it is.
True.
One of the things you do is you have to understand, like for me, my model of getting money for my channel, I get almost no money on monetization. For almost every one of my videos is demonetized. So what this guy that runs the Crucible, Andrew Wilson, what he does, and he told me to do, get your money on the live stream, your super chats and shit, and then set all your videos to private immediately after. Now, when you're trying to build your channel, that sucks because you want people to be able to see your material. But what will happen is, especially if you go in these spaces with a lot of lefties, they'll mass report you.
Yes.
So, and if you get reported for one video, YouTube will just like look at all of your videos.
So
if you set them all to private,
put some private person on your account. Yeah.
that's right. So if you set them all to private, or if you just delete them and then keep them on a secondary channel, right? Like, so have a Rumble channel and keep all your shit up there as well. So like you go to Andrew Wilson's channel, like none of his debates are there. It's like, where are they all? Well, they're on my Rumble and you had to watch them live, and that provides more incentive for people to watch live.
I have a dream, Rob, that one day we'll be able to post anything of any color on any channel. My 4 little children will be judged not by the color of their content, but by the content of their content.
The
content of their
memes.
color.
Yeah. Yeah. That's my dream. The content of my memes.
I have a dream today.
Here's my thing. Like, when it comes to slurs and things like that, I have one criteria. Was it funny? That's it.
Honestly, I've never
Like,
really
if it
thought
was
about
funny,
if
you
I
could
have
be like-
criteria, but I think that's it.
Yeah, you could call me, you could make fun of my personal life, my personal looks and all that shit. And the question I have is like, well, was it funny? Because if it was funny, I'm probably going to be like, eh.
You have to, no, don't be hypocritical. I mean, I've been called every racial slur for white people there is. Fuck, I lived in San Antonio for 5 years, but like this is what I don't understand. So I go to San Antonio, it's American City, I get that. But like certain areas are entirely, well, Hispanic, I guess you'd say, but some of them are Mexican, but some of them are Tejano who hate Mexicans. They're Mexicans that were born in Texas, blah, blah, blah. So number one, you learn it's a little more complicated than you might have thought. It's not all Mexicans, all white people in San Antonio. There's whatever. But so I go get this job at this place when I first moved down there, and I'm the only white person working there. It's all Mexicans. And so this is what I don't understand. Like, if I expected them to be racist and hate me. Like, I walked in there knowing it was going to fucking happen and thinking I'd do the same fucking thing. So I don't blame them. And so I spoke a little bit of Spanish, but like, you ingratiate yourself to the culture that you're entering in that case. And so as soon as I took a bunch of shit and I laughed at it, and then I said some racist shit back to them in broken Spanish, and they fucking loved me from there on. My name in San Antonio is El Güero, the light-skinned Mexican. But like, it's just why people come to this country and won't ingratiate them just that tiny bit. Just allow, yes, I'm the outsider. You point it out, as you fucking should, because you have eyeballs, but you're testing me. It's as you do. You get an outsider into your group, they shit test you. Is this guy a good dude or a bad dude? You fucking laugh, and then you be racist a little bit back. You acknowledge, yes, I too see that I am an outsider, but I'm a good dude, and like, you've had friends like me of your own color. They get all that immediately. It's just, so in a sense, yes, I went to an American city, and maybe it shouldn't be this way, but if you get certain jobs in San Antonio, you're doing the equivalent of immigrating to Mexico.
Well, this H-1B.
You're the outsider, and you demand it be your way. You get the fucking shit kicked out of you, and so it's...
That's right. This H-1B debate, right? Like, so there was this guy that offered to have me come on. I actually had to work, so I couldn't, but come on to the panel, and I was going to be debating this guy, Sindarth, who went kind of viral because he's of Indian descent, and he was flipping out about racists picking on Indians with the H-1B thing. Then you go back and you look at his previous post, and like from 2 months ago, all this post was just about like, fuck low IQ white people don't have any culture, and blah, blah, blah. And so I started going back and forth with him like, okay, yeah, I'm sure there are racists you're dealing with. I guess that sucks. You also are a racist.
Right.
And all these H-1B people that are like, oh, fucking stupid Americans, blah, blah, blah. You want to end birthright citizenship. And it's like, they'll start saying shit like this. And I've seen posts like this over and over. They'll be like, I've given so much to this country. I came to your country and I graduated top of my class in Columbia. And then I was able to then go to grad school. And then I was able to start a business. And I did this and did this. And, this country owes me something. And it's like, really? Because what it sounds like to me is you owe this country something. You don't come into it's like John saying there, you don't come into our house and start making demands. You come into our house and you ingratiate yourself until we're like, all right, this dude's cool. But just to, like, these so many people just feel entitled, like, well, America's just a big fucking open business and we're just going to come take our slice of the pie and fuck you if you have a problem with it. It's like, no, I'm sorry. I don't give a shit how many widgets this country puts out at the end of the year, as much as I give a shit that we have a cohesive country where we have a shared value system. Doesn't have to be based on race. Doesn't even have to be based on religion. But there has to be something that unifies us. And the idea that it's just like, oh, no. It's just whoever ups the GDP the most, that's it. Fuck that. If you're unwilling to come here and act like an American and have values similar to what American values are founded on, then hit the bricks. I don't give a shit that you're the smartest IT guy in the world.
Rob, I have to pause real quick and introduce you to my friend who just showed up here.
He made it.
Otto von Bismarck. Otto von Bismarck, introduce yourself.
You might need to turn his microphone on.
Turn his microphone up.
Hello. How are you?
There you go.
And Otto, so I already did a helmet chug, and then we got another one, and we decided that since you're fucking late, it should be you. How do you feel about that?
Of a land shark.
Of a land shark,
Land shark's
as opposed
easy.
to a land
shark's
whale.
easy. Killer
He
whale?
he's fucking like twitching. He's like, God damn it.
He doesn't. He just walked into this. It is true though. We hit 20 super chats and we did one because a guy bribed us into doing one. That wasn't.
If your vagina hurts too much, I'll do it.
Yeah, why are we taking so long?
That's what I like to hear. That's what I like to hear. We've learned that you got to
Manning up.
drink it out the back, not the front.
Welcome to the show.
Oh man,
It's like Hot Ones, only not boring.
here you go, buddy.
Yeah.
Welcome to Ciderhaus.
Progressively more percentage of alcohol in each
You want a
beer.
Yeah.
You want a PTZ?
Yeah, by the end, you're just doing straight whiskey.
Bring up that PTZ cam too.
Oh, look at this.
There he is.
That's good form.
Oh,
Nice straight posture.
oh,
I like it.
trim. Loving it. Oh, now I'm getting dizzy. Did you take a break?
You can really taste the straps.
Leather.
It really fucking gets that taste in there.
All foam.
There you go. Oh, man.
Yeah, I'm 40 years old almost. Yeah, it's what is what it is.
You got to get a picture
buddy,
of that and then
buddy.
send it out in your
Oh, look
press
at that.
releases.
Foam is it came out of the bottle, man. I don't know what to tell you. That's the post cum.
Future, like, he's going to be a future press secretary.
You're
or
good.
something.
You
He'll
don't,
be
have
this
to, you don't have to keep
confirmation. Is this you drinking a fucking land shark out of a helmet on the Ciderhaus?
Yes, technically,
that is me.
technically,
Next
Bandit,
job.
you're right. You got to flip it on your head, and you got to take as punishment whatever you didn't drink. But you don't have to fuck it. I mean,
We already punished him as soon as he walked in the door. That's-
yeah, I feel a little bad that he
Cut
just
him a break.
rolled.
That's all right.
Anyway, so sorry. I
Yeah.
don't know what we were talking about.
But yeah, Rob, getting back to the H-1B controversy, I was so frustrated with how the news or like legacy media decided to cover it, because they worded it as if Vivek was talking about white Americans specifically when he was talking about all Americans. So normally these types of people never address anything wrong with any community that isn't non-white. Yet they'll accept these criticisms if it means saying all Americans are bad. And
Well,
I
it's the
thought-
same. It's the game they always play, right? Like when you're like, we have a problem with illegals. Oh, you have a problem with immigrants. No, we didn't say that. We said we have a problem with illegals, right? Or this country should be ran for Americans. Oh, white people? I didn't say that, right? They play this game all the time. Vivek's comments, look, I like Vivek. I thought his comments were bad for two reasons. One, the timing of it's very bad. You know, it's basically Trump had a mandate that came from people that are tired of PC woke shit, and they're tired of the people that run this country not giving a shit about the people of this country. And so then to immediately be like, oh, but we need to bring in the best and the brightest from around the world because we have problems in our country, probably not the best timing. The other problem was the specifics on what he says. Like, he makes it like, I hate to say this, and Vivek's probably healthier than me, and I'm sure he knows some kind of crazy fucking Indian martial art or something. He could probably whoop my ass. I don't know. But like, he sounds like a guy that got swirlies in high school. Well, the problem is too many people are watching Saved by the Bell, and they liked AC Slater instead of Screech. Yeah,
Here's
Screech
a
fucking
key
sucked.
part. I think he misses this key part though. I think he's not willing to admit that those swirlies in high school made him the person he is today. And maybe we need a little more of that.
Maybe true. But it's like the point he's trying to make. Yes, we should celebrate merit. We should celebrate incredible achievement. And maybe that achievement's the fucking kid that memorized the dictionary and wins the spelling bee. I tip my cap to that person. But that could also be the jock. Did you ever watch the movie? What's the Vision Quest? Did you ever watch that movie? Fucking great
the
movie.
wrestling movie?
Yes.
Fuck
fucking great.
Matthew Modine.
Yes,
great
awesome movie. Dana White's got this whole speech where
We're
he tells
fucking
about
old,
how
Rob.
that movie changed his life. Because there's this speech. Look it up, when you younger guys. Look it up afterwards. Go look up on YouTube the movie Vision Quest, the Pele speech. Right, and it's just this fucking dude. The whole movie's about Matthew Modine's a high school student, and he decides he's going to drop weight so that he could wrestle the most badass wrestler in the state. And it's such a fucking conservative movie because the whole movie. It's like, instead of the community being like, you're a piece of shit, you're trying to work hard, and he's like, I know. The whole community's behind him like, fucking A. And he's like, I'm going to do right by my parents, and I'm going to date the hottest chick in the school. And he does it all. And he ends up beating this fucking wrestler. It's a great movie. But his buddy's like this old, like 40-year-old dude that works at a restaurant. And he shows up and is like, hey, I just want to let you know I'm wrestling tonight. And the dude's putting on a tie. And he's like, what are you doing? He's like, I'm coming to your match. And he's like, why? Like, don't you work tonight? And he tells this story. He's like, do you know who Pele is? He's like, one night I was sitting by myself drinking in my room because I'm a fucking lonely, sad old bastard. And he's like, I watched this dude Pele do shit with a soccer ball that I just couldn't imagine. And he's like, he scores this final goal and he rips his shirt off and the crowd goes nuts. And he's like, I cried my eyes out because to watch everyone in that moment celebrate that one thing. And it's like, super fucking inspiring. Dana White claims that's made him who he is. This 2-minute speech in this movie. But the point is, that fucking guy should be celebrated, Vivek. He should be. The guy that busted his ass while the rest of us drunks were out fucking drinking every night and busted his ass in the weight room, right? And studying playbooks and studying film so that he could become an all-star quarterback, whatever. You're goddamn right that guy should be celebrated. The problem isn't that our culture is celebrating that guy. It's that we're not. We're not celebrating the nerd that wins the spelling bee or the athlete. We're celebrating the fucking trans kid that wants to bully other people so he realizes by claiming to be a victim that he doesn't have to have merit. And so Vivek's whole fucking, like, he has a central idea that's right. There's a problem with our culture. We prioritize the wrong things. Our education system is fucked. But then he starts rambling about Boy Meets World and fucking Saved by the Bell. And it's like, what are you doing? And so I understand the spirit of where Vivek was coming, but he fucked himself because he said this at the least opportune time. Now he's kicked out of Doge. And now a lot of people that supported him are like, fuck you. You basically told Americans they're not good enough. And like John was saying, you fucking ingratiate yourself. You don't just come in and kick the doors down and say shit's got to change around here. You sort of say like, all right, let me get in good with you guys. Let's not forget Vivek, 2 years ago was saying how shit Trump was and shilling pharmaceutical products.
Yep.
So maybe a little more time, getting in with the crowd before you start kicking some. I don't know. I still like Vivek. I just think really dumb thing and dumb timing.
Well, I will strongly second the recommendation of Vision Quest. It's a fucking awesome movie.
You ever seen the movie She's All That?
Sure. Yeah.
That's what
I don't know if I've seen it.
It's a Paul Walker, right? I forget the other guy.
Is it or is it Heath Ledger? Freddie Prinze Jr. Apparently.
That's true.
We got an
Freddie
expert.
Prinze.
We got an expert in the studio.
Freddie Prinze Jr. for a
Haven't
long
said
time.
a word, and all of a sudden, that's Freddie Prinze Jr.
Yeah.
I put that movie poster on my wall.
Okay, Freddie Prinze Jr. did play the main character, but Paul Walker was also in it.
Okay.
Hey, it's Freddie Prinze, not Prince.
It is actually. I see that now as a Z.
Is that the guy that played Fred? in Scooby-Doo?
Yeah, it is.
He wrote for the WWE for a long time too. Was a writer for wrestling.
I actually think Freddie Prinze Jr. married like another, and they're still married, I believe. Sarah Michelle Gellar.
It would be
You
her.
got the expert in the house.
Still together. That's a rarity. Huh?
I know. I'm shocked. He's
He's the guy from Scooby Doo.
Yeah.
I know him.
That's what I just said.
He's
I didn't hear that.
Thank you, Joseph Newton. Money. Appreciate that.
And it's dollars,
Yeah.
so we really appreciate it.
We love American dollars here. That's always a plus.
Yeah, but Rob, your comments on Vivek are true, and the reason his words sort of fell hollow for me is because he assumes that these tech companies are prioritizing merit when that's not really the case. They're prioritizing people who are obedient and will work less. And if you actually look at the numbers of STEM graduates, there's actually an underemployment problem rather than
Of Americans, you're
problem.
saying? Yeah.
Yeah, of American.
But they don't want them. Yeah, they don't
No,
want
they
those dumbass Americans because they'll do things. But they're basically H-1B system's an indentured servant system.
Yes.
Think of why this works. Like, it's like, okay, you can only come through
Perfectly said.
when your employer files that paperwork. So if you piss your employer off and they fire you, you're instantly on the boat back home. So you're not going to raise a stink when they say, you know what, no Christmas bonus this year.
You're an unemotional machine-like businessman, and you have the option between an expensive American employee who has wants, needs, wants to have a family, and then literally a slave. If you have no empathy, I know what choice you're going to make. Even if you have empathy, I think I know what choice you're going to make if you do business. So, yeah, like
I totally agree.
They can't change companies. They can't ask for a raise. They're here if they fuck up anything at all, they're gone. So they're on their best behavior. They're not drinking. They're not fucking whatever. Yeah, it's a businessman's dream, the H-1B, I guess.
Well, and think of it this, like, it is true that there's a problem in our country, right? But the same people that create the problems then always tell you have to listen to them with the solution that was always the solution that they wanted.
Okay, so do you think they're creating the problems to sell the solution? I mean, I think there's a lot more of that going on than I was willing to admit 10 years ago.
I think it's
like like Gavin Newsom lit the fires in California. Not literally him, but like
he's out there like is it the French Laundry with a cigar with like
so we were talking about True Detective season 1, which is awesome, but the show has this bad reputation in season 2, but season 2 is all about how corrupt California is if you haven't seen it.
I have not.
And Vince Vaughn is the corrupt sort of criminal.
He's the Gavin Newsom type
Well,
guy?
no, the politicians pay him. Now in this season, it's about like poisoning land so it becomes cheap, so they can buy all this land.
I think that it's not. I do think that there are people that are acting corruptly, and I think that we need to call that out. There is a lot of incompetence too, and we shouldn't overlook just how stupid many of them are.
Oh, here, let me say this real quick, Rob. I just thought of the quote I was trying to think of. I wish maybe actually you know who said this, but I think it's something along the lines of. Communism is not a good idea that went wrong. It's a bad idea that went perfectly.
Yes, I don't know who said it, but yeah, that's. I mean, that's
point being is that we're tempted to sit here and talk about how stupid it all is, all their ideas is, but that's because you're thinking from a point of rationality and shit that works. And it's like, this is a stupid idea if you want to make America a better country. It doesn't occur to you that might not be their goal.
Right.
Martin
like, for example,
Amis.
like I'll give you an example, right? Like you could say formerly, right, that you're arguing with a lefty and you both generally want the same things. You want the country to thrive. You want people to have jobs. Oh, there we go.
Oh, nice.
Awesome. And you just disagree on how to get there. But then, like, for me, one of the big black pills was climate change, right? Where I realized talking to people that even though the end goal might be we want to save the earth, their step to get to that goal is like, well, we probably need to kill 2 billion people. Mm-hmm. And you're like, wait, what?
Yeah.
What? Right? Like, and like, I had this guy on, like, smart dude. I'm not going to say him by name, but he came on my channel years ago when I started my channel. Dude, I knew in real life. He's sitting across from me at the table and we're talking. And I walk this dude, and he's a smart guy, and he's not an evil piece of shit. And I start talking to him about his beliefs on climate change, and he's like, I think that we're all dead in 100 years because climate change. And I'm like, well, what do we have to do to stop it? We have to almost immediately stop consuming fossil fuels. Okay, let's say the United States does that. China's not going to.
Right.
India's not going to. What are you going to do? Well, we'll try to give them this cheap. Well, they're going to buy up all the cheat and start running. So you willing to go to war? Yeah, I guess I'm willing to go to war. Okay, how many lives do you think would be lost in that World War III? Well, probably a couple billion. After pulling teeth, I get them there. And I'm like, okay, final question. How certain are you that you're right, that in 100 years we'll be dead of climate change? Maybe 20%. And I'm like, so you're willing to advocate for policies to kill 2 billion people because you're 20% sure?
Yeah.
I'm like, do you understand how fucking insane
1 out of 5.
this is?
1 out of 5, good enough.
Yeah, it's far more than that, Rob, because a lot of people are reliant on fossil fuels. Like green energy is not that reliable. That a lot of people are led to believe.
Well, yeah, but that's even downstream from the whole ridiculousness. Of,
Right.
Yeah. 20%, shut your fucking mouth.
Right. And I even had this, I was like India, their life expectancy has gone through the roof in like the past 40 years. You look at India, it's fucking crazy. Their infrastructure, they got like diesel generators on everywhere. Their power lines are running. It looks like you look at this shit, you'd be like, get me the fuck out of here.
Pooping in the
this shit's going to
street.
blow up any moment. But just that rudimentary infrastructure has massively increased the quality of their life. You're going to go to them and say, sorry, dude, you guys can't have this shit anymore. Back to the Stone Age for you fuckers. You're going to say that to them?
What's that?
Like, you realize how
It's a bit of a
absurd that
backup,
sounds?
but to your point is like, I think the tell for the left is how they never shit on China for climate fucking change. Like that is 90% of the fucking shitty climate is China polluting the ever living.
Because, John, in the 80s, we used to just have this idea where we would just drag all our trash out to the ocean and then leave it there. And then we realized that's actually
Well, yeah, I get
very
why
good
they
idea.
do it and all, but it's just you have this leftist that's talking about how America needs wind power. And to Rob's point is like that ain't doing shit about what China's just dumping fucking 900 trillion tons of trash in India too.
No, I know. I'm saying
If you,
It's just
so
giving
the
them
point being
jobs.
is if somebody cares, genuinely cares about climate change, let's ignore the fact that it's bullshit, but let's say they really care about it, then they're going to talk about China first, India second, the United States somewhere between like 5 and 10. So you can, if someone starts bitching about climate change because of the US, number one, it's probably not an American. It's some foreigner on some fucking Twitter fake account.
someone on
trying to-
Sky News.
yeah, but it's just like, okay, I'm perfectly willing to listen to these autistic leftists who genuinely care about climate change. Maybe, I mean, I'm not saying they'll convince me, and I think it's bullshit, but if you're this is back to Destiny too. If you're arguing in good faith, if you really are believing the world's going to end, and you're like China's causing, we need to stop China, we need to stop India, we need to stop Southeast Asia, we need to stop Indonesia, we need to stop Singapore. It's causing all this fucking trash to flow through the fucking ocean currents. Then I'd be like, all right. I mean, I don't agree with you, but you seem like you've thought about this in a serious way. If they start saying America needs just those two words, they're full of shit. Right off you can just shut your ears and go about your day. You can say, this is going to seem like a troll, but it's not.
Well, so if you've seen it's sort of a meme now, but I don't know what the study came from, but you see it everywhere now if you go on social media, where it's the graph, the like little heat map, and the conservative, what this graph is
Yes.
showing is conservatives prioritize the people closest to them.
It's called an
your
in-group.
individual family,
In-group.
Yes, your in-group preferences. With liberals, it's the exact opposite.
Out-group.
So they hate their in-group preference. They like the out-group, right? A lot of it, that's what I'm saying, we're like, what values do we share with them when a lot of the things they're advocating for are strictly for the punishment of America and Americans?
You know what's also I find interesting, Rob, is an out-group preference is a position that can only exist if you live a life of insane luxury.
Yes, that is absolutely true. Absolutely.
You literally don't get to out-group preference. You got to first go through in-group preference. We had all these racist white Americans that conquered the country. Only because of those people do liberals exist that have the luxury of now saying we need to help foreigners. If this country wasn't so fucking incredible, nobody would be saying that. Like, I doubt many North Koreans are advocating for foreigners. It's
If you're
pretty
struggling to
much
find your-
nowhere else on the planet do people advocate for foreigners. It's only in the West, in mostly U.S. and in the U.K., that we have, parts of Europe, that we have the luxury that there's people that live such comfortable lives that they'll literally argue to import outsiders.
In Joe Biden's world, every citizen of the world is just an American citizen in waiting.
Yeah. Well, I just mean the point
Yeah,
being is like you can only get to that form of logic if you have all your other needs met. If you don't have your other needs met, you don't go there.
Yeah,
Unless
it's like
you're deeply immoral, right?
Well,
you're-
yeah,
But
yeah.
yes, you're right.
In a good
Like,
faith. That's real quick. Bill Clinton. I did 8 years as a wind tech in Coachella Valley. Wind is shit energy, great paying job though. Yeah, it's
course.
fake. That shit's fake.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, it's like, so like to go with this, like this self-flagellation, right? Like there's something psychologically damaged with these people where the highest thing you could reach towards is victimhood. And so if you're from a privileged group, you need to prostrate yourself. The videos you see of Black Lives Matter where you see the people kissing the feet of black people or all the FBI agents kneeling down from them, fuck all that shit. I had this argument with this guy, I used to drink with this guy like crazy. He sells insurance now in the town, man. I haven't talked to him for like 10, 15 years. He was always kind of a wiener, if I could say so. But anyways, like during the Black Lives Matter riots and shit, I stopped posting on Facebook because I don't want to bring my shit to people that just know me as family.
You're telling me you
Now
didn't
it's-
post a black square, Rob?
I did not. I was opposed
Piece
to
of
the black
shit.
square. So I started arguing with these pricks because it started this. A good friend of mine was giving shit to the local county fair. Can you look at this picture? How many people were at the local demo derby? Don't they know that COVID's out there? Blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, hey, man, fuck you. Weren't you at the local Black Lives Matter rally? That was cool, right?
That prevents COVID transmission, though.
Right. So I like that guy. So we're going back and forth with that, right? And then this other dude jumps in because I start talking to all these people that are like, I'm like, why am I the racist? Because I don't want people, black people and white people for that matter, that don't live in these communities, going into black communities and lighting fires, right? I'm the bad guy because I'm like, hey, you know what we shouldn't do? Cheer on lighting black neighborhoods on fire.
Yeah.
How about that? And they're like, well, that's the racist position. So then I would start with like, well, why don't you invite them to your home? Have them come to your neighborhood, burn down your shit, break into your store, break into your garage. How's that? Right? And this one guy, you know, I got all these conversations from this Wiener guy then. He particularly starts up about my white privilege. And I'm like, well, you're white. How much of your wealth has been stolen from people of color? And he says probably 50%. I was like, okay, give it back.
I had an English teacher once.
He's like, go ahead. Sorry.
No, sorry. I had an English teacher once who made me write a paper about how I have white privilege and how that's affected me in life. And I refused to do it. And she almost failed me out of the class. I just told her, though, I was like, my dad escaped communist Romania twice, got caught the first time, sent to a gulag, forced into prison, escaped again, came here, got his first job at a place called the Wiener World, 40 cents an hour under the table, graduated top of his class at culinary school. So tell me, at what part of that story did he have white privilege?
See, Wiener World's different in the days of OnlyFans. Sure,
yeah, whole different context now.
Yeah, but yeah, that's exactly. But that's what I tell this guy. I'm like, okay, so let's take it from the perspective of I'm a black person that even believes in the white privilege shit. On one hand, you have me that says I don't believe that shit. Then on the other hand, you have this guy that says, of course, 50% of everything I have, I stole from black people. And I'm like, okay, then give it back to that black guy. And you're like, no. So in other words, you're admitting that you stole. I don't think I stole. You do think you stole. Give it back.
Still not giving it back.
There should be a form on your taxes that you filed at the end of the year. And it should say the last question should be, you know, you're white. Yeah. Do you believe in white privilege? Yeah. Okay, then you have to pay 200% more taxes so we can give it to black people. There you go. Then all of a sudden, wait and see how many people believe in white privilege. Right? And that's the truth. All these people virtue signal about this shit, and they burn this country to the fucking ground if it meant that they got to virtue signal till it personally affects them. Right? Like, who was it? I saw a comedian the other day doing a crowd work, and this woman said, "You can't roast me." He's like, "What's your job?" She's like, "I'm a DEI officer, helps people of color get hired at my university." And he's like, "I can't see, but you sound like a white woman." So it sounds like black people for every job, except yours. Your job needs to be a white person. And that's the truth of it. They're all this bullshit. It's the same with climate change, right? They're all big to tell you what you should do with your light bulbs and your fucking diesel engine. But oh boy, when they're flying on their private jets, that's different. I'm important.
Rules for thee, not for me.
They don't believe in this shit. And like the whole point is so many of their policies that they advocate for, they won't tell you the truth. And the truth is they don't fucking like a lot of Americans and they hope that they suffer. And that's the real fucking truth. The agenda from the elites, just to give it in a nutshell, what I believe is they want a globalist system. They're not drinking blood out of skulls and shit like that necessarily, but they want a system of one world governments because it'll be easy for them to control. It'll be easy for the business people to only have one set of laws that they have to follow. And the best way to do that is to erode national identity. And the biggest impediment to them are people in the middle class, particularly in the United States. When you look at it through that lens, all of a sudden, all of their policies make sense. Why would they have these open border policies? Why would they do this? Because they don't give a shit. They're not looking at the United States as this unique, special place with special history, with people that are connected to it and have a connection to each other. They look at us all as basically corporate wage slaves that are interchangeable. I'll take out that white man of, you know, Germanic history and insert this Indian. And then in India, we'll take out that Indian and we'll insert this Chinese person. We're just interchangeable fucking cogs to them. And it's like, they don't understand. Well, they do understand. And that's the point I'm trying to make. Their policies aren't, you can almost forgive if it's like, well, you're fucking dumb. You're advocating for policies that will hurt your constituents. But so many of them know that. Or rather, their constituents aren't me and you.
Well, yeah, that's kind of what we were talking about earlier is like, sometimes they do this shit and you're like, wow, what a stupid thing to do. But to understand it, all you have to do is their interest is not making the country a better place. There's a different interest at play here if it doesn't make sense. Like Joe Biden, well, he was old and shit, but previously in his political career, he did lots of shit you'd say that was idiotic, but no, it was perfect for the plan that Democrats were executing. They executed exactly the plan that they wanted to.
And they like someone I really like is Mike Benz. I don't know if you guys have followed him, but he talks. And Mike Benz, like, it blew my mind because I knew this, but to hear him put it in words so succinctly, he's like, when you hear them talk about something be a threat to democracy, they mean that. It's just they've changed what the word democracy means. You think democracy means like all the people in this country have a voice. And so the country exists to kind of implement the policies of the voice of the people. It doesn't have to be direct democracy, but in general, that's the idea. So if the majority of people want something, the government tries to go in that direction. Not always exactly to the T, but that's our idea of what democracy would be. Their idea of democracy is something very different. And that idea is there are all these institutions that run our country and run the world, like the FBI or the IRS or technocrats, like it's social media that run it, or people in academia. And all of these institutions, it's hard to get on the same page. So when they talk about democracy, what they mean is the will of those institutions. And that's why they can say things like, well, allowing people to have free speech and to voice what they want, that's anti-democratic. Now, to us, we're like, how does that make sense? How is allowing people to have an opinion? That's literally like the core of what democracy is.
Yeah.
But not when you look at it like they are. They're not looking at, your voice don't mean shit. You're not the constituent. The constituent is the oligarchy and all of those institutions. And so you are a threat to their democracy.
There was a little while, it wasn't too long ago, you probably remember, where Harvard tried to have a segregated graduation. There was a great comment that said, Harvard's idea of diversity is where everybody looks different but thinks the same.
That's right. I've said it a million times.
Maybe fundamental left-right thing. The right thinks diversity means diversity of opinion.
That's exactly it. And I ask this all the time to get people, like when I'm talking to lefties, I'll say, you value diversity? Yeah. I'm like, let's say you're at your business and you're putting together a team and you want a diverse team. And team one is 10 white guys that all have completely different ideas on where the project should go. And team two is, an Asian woman in a wheelchair and then a lesbian from Sudan. And, and I go through all this and I'm like, but they all 100% agree. Which group's more diverse? And they, but it's like, first off, diversity isn't always our strength. You think that diversity
that's that heat map you were talking about in action right there. Everyone looks different but thinks the same versus everybody looks the same but has different ideas.
Right. Let's say you're in the Foxhole, right? And you're getting bared down on by the fucking Germans or something. Do you want now wait a minute, we all have diverse opinions here. Or do you want one motherfucker taking charge and everyone saying, yep, that sounds good, right? So there are times when diversity is a strength. But 99 out of 100 times what we're referring to is diversity of thought, diversity of opinion. You'll just say, if that's the end goal, well, how do we get to diversity of thought? And there are a bunch of ways you can get there. There are things further up the chain that you might think would lead there. For example, if you have two people from different backgrounds, one grew up wealthy, one grew up poor, you might say, oh, that might lead to diversity of opinion, but not necessarily. It might lead to them having the exact same opinion. Then does that matter? Does that superficial? Well, one came from a poor family and one came from a rich. No, it wouldn't matter in that sense. And that's it's the whole game is like it's a shell game that they move around these words, change definitions. They try to couch it in morality, but they just don't give a shit. They don't care at all about the average person. Do you think for a second, like one of my favorite images was the riots of Black Lives Matter, like the first couple of days. And there was a picture, I think, in Minneapolis where you see all these buildings burnt down. And the only one that's not touched is Chase Bank. And they have a sign in the window that says Black Lives Matter. Chase Bank has been sued for predatory lending to African Americans. But because they have the right sign in the window.
That's part of the predation.
That's right.
Yeah.
Nike's for Black Lives Matter as they pump out $10 shoes that they sell you for $200 that was made by slave labor in China.
Yep.
It's so farcical. It was a revolution from the wealthiest, most powerful people in this country against toothless Trump supporters, in their words. That's the real villain. The real villain's my fucking dad that's spent 20 years working at a window factory and then got laid up. They fucking went into work one Tuesday and they said, pack up your shit. The company, that's the real villain. Not fucking Washington, not Martha's Vineyard. Nah, it's that guy. He's the real problem. That racist secretary. And it's just like, I have no tolerance for this shit anymore. Yeah, I don't care, Margaret. That's how I feel. I'm just like, you wax on about it all. I don't give a shit.
Now, I ask on my channel Socratically for about a year now, what is the problem? Like, okay, everybody seems to agree that everything's all fucked up, but what is the problem? If I ask you, what is the problem? How do you say that in one sentence? And I think most people would agree that if you think about that seriously, you realize pretty quickly it's pretty fucking hard to answer that question in one sentence. And I would submit this to you. If it's hard to answer a question in one sentence, then the problem is language.
Can I ask you a question, though?
If you're struggling with the language to answer the question, then the problem is the language of the question. The left, fundamentally, it's a language war.
I know this kind of goes against what you just tried to explain, but if you did have to explain in a sentence, what would your sentence be of what's going wrong now?
Language.
I guess that does make sense. I think mine would be globalist versus nationalist.
But those you can like Rob's saying, always change the definition of words, and then you change the arrangement of the arts. 100 years from now, globalist will be used to describe the losers.
That's true.
And whoever wins will assume that mantle of they'll claim they were us. Mm-hmm. And that's probably been happening for a long time.
The people running this country don't give a shit about the people.
Speaking
of
of
this
Noerr
country.
Macdonald, he has that great quote of, "Hey, look at that! I was reading some history, and the good guys won every time."
Again, is that amazing? How they? Yeah. Oh, Norm.
It's kind of what
Norm
I'm
is
saying. It's a language problem.
My favorite Norm bit, and he said it several times, but it's the Asian woman comedian that's on with Margaret Cho and on his podcast, and it's so brilliantly set up. I know I've seen the tweet that he made that says the same thing, but to watch her face, it's obvious that she's like a radical lefty, but he's not going to come out and say it. And he's like, I have my greatest fear is that Al Qaeda or ISIS will unleash a dirty bomb over a major city in the United States and kill millions of people. And then, like, how will people treat Muslims after that? And Margaret Cho's like, I know. She doesn't understand.
I remember that vividly.
Yeah, he used that joke quite a bit, actually.
So good.
So you know what I'm really worried about is the Muslims being offended.
The outback or the backlash towards Muslims.
He's a fucking genius, man.
He's amazing.
But the thing that makes him so funny is the way he's using language to point out that it is indeed a language problem. Look at that. The good guys won every time. He's making a language joke.
He definitely is, and it's he's pointing out the absurdities, right, of the things that we're told that we have to play. That's
well, the punchline is kind of like, because you realize if you pay attention to that joke that the good guys it's the winners. The winners just call themselves the good guys.
That's right, and it's amazing to me, like, how comedy, I've always loved comedy because, if you read like Shakespeare and stuff, all of the Shakespeare tragedies, who's the only person, each of them, that's like telling the truth? Who would be the most reliable narrator? Every single time it's the court jester. Every single time, right? The only one that's willing to tell Macbeth, or Hamlet to eat shit.
Making me think of that Edgar Allan Poe Hop Frog. You ever read that?
Yes.
He kills the princess.
Yeah, it's the same. It's the same mentality where it's like comedy is. Again, there's a famous quote that inside every joke's a tiny revolution. Like, that's true. Or look at who you can't make fun of, and that's who runs things.
That's Voltaire.
True,
yeah,
right? Those quotes are true, right? And so to see the downfall of comedy in these past 2 decades has been atrocious to me, and that's why I think Norm stands out even more. A guy whose personal life epitomized sabotaging himself over and over again for the joke and for his principles, which is amazing, and being able to, he went into these spaces, you can tell. Watch his last appearance on Letterman. Letterman's a fucking lefty. He's interviewing Barack Obama all the time. Norm Macdonald actually looked up to David Letterman a lot. And it's one of the things that, I try to do in my life. People don't understand. Rob, how could you have lefty friends? I don't know. I do. I'm able to separate. There are certain left-wing people that I think are just immoral sacks of shit that I wouldn't be friends with. But there are certainly a lot that I think we just have disagreements, and that someday maybe I could reach them and maybe not, but we could still have a friendship. Like Norm, he was accepted into that Hollywood-esque class. Maybe not the high levels, but he was accepted even though they knew of his pointed criticism. And they just imagine how strong of a character and how talented you have to be to achieve that. Where to a lesser extent, though I still think funny, Ricky Gervais. He walks into the Golden Globes and gives that fucking speech, and it's He's fucking with all those people, but they probably still go to a cocktail
Well,
party
for the
with them.
first time in a while, the audience was us for a change. He was telling jokes for our benefit instead of theirs. Yeah, it was kind of nice.
It was amazing. It was amazing. And like, they didn't get it. The end of that speech where he's like, you're not in a position to lecture anyone.
Yeah.
Come up and get your little award. Thank your God and sit the fuck down. No one wants to hear what you have to say. And then what do? They go, climate change, blah, blah, blah. Leo, tell us more as you're taking your private jet to put more carbon in the air. And
Another great example of that sort of relationship is, you familiar with G.K. Chesterton at all?
No.
So G.K. Chesterton is in my opinion, a titan of right-wing thought. He was a Christian apologist, but he wrote, early 1900s. His best friend was George Bernard Shaw, who was a flaming liberal playwright, and they had this. So Chesterton was 6'4", weighed like 300 pounds. He was huge, and Shaw was tiny. And the famous exchange between them is Chesterton says to Shaw, to look at you, one would think there was a famine in England, and Shaw says, to look at you, they would think you caused it. So they fucking made fun of each other all the time. But Bernard Shaw was a flaming liberal, and Chesterton, I'm not surprised you haven't heard of him because he was sort of memory hold. But Shaw has this great quote that says, if the world forgets Chesterton, it's the world's loss.
That's awesome.
And so, yeah, there's tons of examples of this throughout history of these two titans of left and right-wing thought finding some common ground, becoming friends, and then they very often have this relationship that on the surface anyway looks like they're shitting on each other.
Yeah. Buckley, if you watch William F. Buckley, like in what was the firing line, like there were a lot of lefties that loved Buckley. And, he was this, sort of the last sort of talk show that encouraged lefty versus right, that was worth anything.
Yeah.
After that, you got the 12-person CNN panel, 11 lefties. There's Scott Jennings tearing it up there, but yeah, it's a bit. I like that. I try my best to separate. I mean, for me, it's always about like we're all dust at the end of the day. If you're religious, you know where you're going. If not, no one's gonna. No matter how great any of us are here, 100 years after we're dead, we're a fucking rock in a field next to 100 other rocks in a field, and that's it. Your great grandkids aren't gonna remember you. They'll see a picture of you and fucking
The
Facebook
world
one day.
turns on.
Yeah.
Keeps
Who's
turning.
this? Oh, this is great grandpa John. What's he doing now? He's drinking a land shark out of a fucking helmet. That's great. Great grandpa sounds
Yeah,
like a
if I ever
lunatic.
have grandkids, I'll fucking probably try to delete all this shit. But,
Yeah, right.
Unless
right,
a bunch of Haitians invade your great grandfather.
quickly, I gotta get heading home here. We've gone about 20 minutes over, which is totally fine. There's no such thing as over on this show, but just tonight it so happens that I gotta get rolling. So you gentlemen are more than welcome to continue the show, but I'm gonna duck out. I'll let Mihai
Nice
make
talking to you, man, as always.
You guys want to keep raging? You're scheduled till 9 on Twitter, so you got time.
Yeah, we can
I'm
get
good
into
as
some
they
bonus
are.
topics.
Yeah, I can stick around till 9, no problem.
All right, I'm going to scoot Trump over into my screen, and then I'm going to roll out. But, hey, Rob, it was great to have you, man. You're always an awesome fucking show. Anybody out there watching, if you aren't already subscribed to Rob Noerr on YouTube and Twitter, go do it right now. Absolutely incredible content. I watch him myself all the time. We're doing everything we can to make enough money to hire his ass so we can stop helping old autistic people.
Yeah.
But
I can bring them too. They can hold a book.
No, I don't throw out endorsement. Not like I'm endorsing you. You don't need my endorsement. But yeah, you are an incredible content creator. Highly recommended. Go check out Rob Noerr. On that note, I am going to duck out and drag Trump in here. You guys enjoy the rest of the show. Chat, it was good to see you.
All right, good night.
Thanks, John. Good night, man.
Thanks, John.
John's great, and he didn't even spill much of his helmet beer. What a man!
Yeah.
It's good stuff.
All
There
right,
he is.
so-
There's the Trump man.
Yeah, but Mihai, you want to bring up some bonus topics?
We can. We didn't even. We're just gonna skip the RFK thing. We'll save that for. We'll just do a roundup, I guess, on Tuesday of all the confirmation hearings. How about that?
Yeah, that works. Let's see.
You got a prediction? You guys have a prediction? Who do you
Ooh.
think makes it through?
I think Kash Patel made a strong case for himself today.
I think that they'll say no to Tulsi. I think that Cash will make it and RFK will make it, and they'll say no to Tulsi. That's my guess, because you'll have more Republican defections. Because I think that Tulsi represents to many of the neocon Republicans the ultimate sin, which is questioning sort of the forever war state.
Yeah.
And Cash they could live with, RFK they could live with, but I think because you have to remember it doesn't matter how much the Democrats hate them; they're all going to vote against them anyways. So you have to be looking at who's going to have Republican defections, and I think it'll be Tulsi. We'll see though. I hope all three make it.
Yeah, I would like to see Tulsi.
Okay.
It did seem like so everything I just like the news around it, whether it's like they want to hold the vote in secrecy or anything else, nothing has seemed like good news coming from that one. Whereas RFK, with the standing ovation and everything, I was like, going into it, I thought RFK maybe would not have gotten confirmed, but afterwards, I'm like, okay, there's no chance they can not confirm this guy. To me,
Well, imagine if you're like a lefty, right? Like an old school lefty that maybe voted for Trump this time or maybe set it out because you're like, God damn, this Biden Kamala stuff's a mess. And then imagine be like, well, at least there's one guy that, is going to be put in the Trump administration that sort of has always been on my side, a Kennedy at that. Yeah. And that's the only one? That's the one they give the finger to?
Yeah, no,
Imagine how you would feel,
I saw a funny tweet. I forget exactly how it was worded, but the gist of it was the Democrats are now opposing a Kennedy Democrat, and the Republicans are worried about the dyes they're putting in our food. What is happening to the world?
Yeah. It's weird. It has been a shift. I mean, this is something. So I deal a lot with like the Christian nationalist community, and one of the fears they have is that Republicans becoming too big tent. Right? We don't want all these tech bros. We don't want, people that are for gay marriage. We don't want fucking, former Democrats. We don't want those people. And I understand where they're coming from, because if you delude your party so much, then is it really your party? I get it, right? But I think that the bigger story here is what's happening is it's not that these people left the Democratic Party. It's the Democratic Party's left them. The policies of Bill Clinton now would be almost indistinguishable largely from Donald Trump policies. Other than like questions of corruption and stuff like that. Go listen to what Bill Clinton was saying about immigration. Go listen to what Barack Obama was saying about immigration. Yeah. Listen to what they said about gay marriage.
Deporter-in-chief. They called him the deporter-in-chief
right.
at the time. Mm-hmm.
And so like it's and they're so dilute. It's one of the things that blows my mind. I always question whether it's like a competency issue, whether it's subconscious or what, but it's amazing to me how many left-wingers that I interact with. And there's different tiers of things. Let me be clear with this. There's different tiers of people that I hold responsibility for. For example, let's say you're a fucking Republican Democrat, I don't care, and you're working 9 to 5 and you have a family. I'm not throwing a lot of shade at you because you probably got better things going on in life than to sit down and watch confirmation hearings. And you're hearing some little scuttlebutt, you make an opinion based on what Jimmy Fallon said or some shit. It's shitty, but okay, whatever. But I put the more connected you are, the more blame I put on you, right? So your neighbor that's a Democrat that somehow missed the obvious signs that Joe Biden was a mental incompetent, but the press, the vice president, Kamala Harris, the Democrats in the party, no, they knew. And they should be held more accountable. I feel that way about all of politics. So when I'm dealing with people that stream, I put them more accountable than the average neighbor type person, but maybe not as connected as a politician or as a mainstream media person. But still, for me, one of the things I could do to be fair to other people, if you're willing to enter this space, then I'm going to treat you like a big boy. I don't give a shit if you're 18 and you don't really know what you're talking about, whatever. You came in to debate me. You came into this space. That's how I'm going to treat you. So when I deal with these people, it's amazing to me how a lack of self-reflection they have. Like, for example, they'll say things like this. Well, there's just so much institutional benefit for Trump versus Kamala. Like all of these podcast bros and stuff are on his side. How could we culturally break into that? And it's like, dude, every cultural institution in this country is on board with the Democrats. Find a Hollywood celebrity. You could name them on one hand. We got Kevin Sorbo, Rob Schneider, and John Voight.
Yeah.
But you have everyone else. How about academia? You have everyone. How about social media? Well, up until this year with Trump, you had everyone. How about the mainstream media? Other than Fox, which sucks, you have basically everyone. And that's still not enough for them. They're still we're the victims.
The only institution they don't hold is the Supreme Court, and that's why they hate it so much.
Well, that's true. See, you have to understand too, they're very smart. They understand the need to infiltrate institutions that the other side has importance of. That's why you see them infiltrating the church. That's why you see this woman bishop up there. Actually, Trump, you need to accept, refugees and gay people that are fearful. That's what that's about.
She blesses abortion clinics, by the way.
I was actually happy when I saw that video, Rob, because I thought, I think the culture shifted enough now where it's good for the real world to see those videos and be like, what the heck's going on at the Episcopalian Church? What is this?
It's insane, and that's why there's so much. And you can see this, like if you're questioning this, you're like, maybe I don't really follow the church stuff. Look at it this way: did you ever wonder why you'll have these shows that come out like, what was the one that Yellowstone, right? Yeah, these shows come out and they're huge, and it's like conservative shit, fucking land ranchers, fucking cowboy shit, and fist fights, and blah blah blah. Yeah, it's like a soap opera, but whatever, right? It's like conservative shit, and then all of a sudden the worm turns by like season 2 or 3. They understand the importance of infiltrating those sort of institutions. Here's another institution that you would have said was conservative 20 years ago, the military. Now look at it. Well, they got rid of everyone that wouldn't take the vaccine. They instituted DEI initiatives. They put generals in there like General Miley and the guy wearing the fucking dog mask that you see, right? Like they pervert, and I don't mean pervert in the sense like sexual perversion, though that's certainly part of it, but they pervert it in that they inverse what the stated intentions were of this, right? And so, you know, it's a damn shame that you see this happening with all these institutions, but there's just no self-reflection on the party of the left. To them, this is how they look at it because they feel morally superior. They think they would look at something like social media, and you could be like, wow, the censorship on social media was 99% directed towards right-wingers. They kicked Trump off of Twitter, right? They kicked the Republican candidate off or president off. And like, look at how bad. And when you say that to Democrats, they'd be like, I know, that's fucking disgusting. 99% of it's in favor of us. That's fucking garbage. This can't keep up. It must be 100. That's how they look at it. It's not fair that they only have 99% control. They need it all. You shouldn't have a voice at all.
Do you look at a part of this in a spiritual aspect? Do you ever dare contemplate that? Not to go full like Tucker Carlson, where like I think every Democrat's a demon. Not that he necessarily thinks that, but he pushes a lot of the spiritual aspect of it. I just like one thing you said that hit me hard was the inverse, and to me the whole goal of Satanism is the inverse of Christianity and to turn everything on its head.
Watch my show last night. I did a review of Piers Morgan's latest debate with Cenk Uygur versus my friend Andrew Wilson. And Andrew talks heavily about in that debate that female bishop, it's all about inversion, which is satanic. Now, my criticism of Andrew, this isn't really a criticism. I'm not saying he's wrong. I'm saying that to a broad mainstream audience, they hear something like that and they're like, ooh, because she's a woman, that's satanic. It's deeper than that. And obviously in a 3-minute soundbite on Piers Morgan, you're not going to be able to get into it. But yeah, I don't think that I think like, for example, just the interactions I've had with John, I think John's probably more well-read with me than me. And I think he's probably thinking at things more philosophical. I'm kind of just a dumb redneck. Like I happen to be a good debater, but I'm looking at things basically through what some might consider kind of a utilitarian. I'm not really utilitarian, but I can understand why they'd say that. I'm looking at like the practical application of how shit plays out. So I oftentimes will find myself in these debates where I'm debating, you know, a Christian nationalist or a anarcho-capitalist on these very difficult concepts of like, where does morality come from? And things like that. And those are all important questions, and we all need to answer those questions. But oftentimes what I'm doing is just looking at how things practically play out on a day-to-day basis. But having said that, even though I don't talk about it a lot, yeah, there is a spiritual aspect to this.
Yeah,
there certainly is, and it's hard to put your thumb exactly on it, but there is. It has to do with sort of that self-loathing. It's when I say, and correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think what you're saying is, well, when you're saying that this can be spiritual or can it be satanic, it's not that like they're slitting the blood, the throats of children, like. When we say satanic or like secular, it's giving in to the vices of this world, right? And overlooking that we have a higher calling, right?
Yeah.
That there is, and it doesn't even, like for me, I think that's Christianity, but it doesn't have to be that. There is a sense of we have morally failed, that we no longer look at things like in that sense of what does it mean to be good people?
Yeah,
what does it mean?
To me, it's like, I totally agree. It's not so much about Christianity as an individual, but it's the realization and the acceptance that there is both good and evil in this world. And then if there's both good and evil, you have to understand that those forces are playing against each other at all times.
I agree.
Yeah, and in the case of Andrew's debate with Cenk, to people who aren't religious or just like actively anti-theist, like they hate religions, they'll look at Cenk and say, yeah, he's crazy. But if you're actually religious, if you're Catholic, you'll look at what Andrew's saying and say, yeah, he's just completely right. Because notice how Episcopalians have female bishops, but Catholics don't. Why is that? Because Jesus never had any female apostles. So the Catholics can't look at that and say, okay, so let's just make women bishops. no, they can't do that because that's not what happened in the Bible. And it's not because they hate women. It's just not what was said. So if they don't follow their faith accurately, then why even have faith at all?
It's very difficult because I consider myself Christian, but a very bad one. I don't go to church. I'm not super well read. I've read the Bible, but I'm not super well read. And, you know, when I was 14, I desperately wanted God to be real and wanted Christianity to be real. And then I had a bad experience with the church. Then I became an atheist, and then ultimately I came back to it. But by the time I came back to it, it wasn't this hippy dippy, like, oh, Jesus was this hippie, love everyone. It wasn't that. It was, for me, what appealed to me about Christianity was that there are things that we should prioritize that mean more. Your family, right? Finding someone to love, starting a family, understanding that it's more than just, I need to work more so I could get that new car that I wanted. So I could, like, that. Those people that I saw that were Christians, they never had to explain to me where their faith came from for me to look at them and say, I realize that they're living life the way that I should be living it, right? And how did they get there? Well, they got there through the Word of God and through Christianity. But I'm no expert on it, and I need to do better. So I oftentimes, when it comes to sort of, I'll watch these debates where it's like you have a Catholic debating a Protestant or an Orthodox debating a Catholic, and like, I have to claim ignorance on a lot of this because I don't have the literacy to be able to say. What you're saying makes sense there is the terms of, if priests are supposed to be modeled after the apostles, it would make sense why a Catholic would say, well, then they have to be men. And that's not a slight on women at all. In fact, I think that women have the most important role in humanity, which is being great mothers. That's where everything stems from. But it's not a criticism. What I'm saying is, because of how secular our country is at this point, if you come in guns blazing and it's just, you only have 3 minutes to say, this is why this woman's satanic, I understand perceptually why an audience will say, that sounds crazy. Even if it's not, I understand. And so if the goal is, hey, I'm trying to convince people in this 3-minute segment that I have that I'm right, maybe the average viewer would be like, eh. But if the goal's like, I don't give a shit about all that, my goal's to speak the truth, then yes, that's a perfectly fine message. So it's, I get it. I get where Andrew's coming from. But in general, to speak without really delving deep into religion, yes, there is a battle going on. There are people that are doing wrong that know that they're doing wrong. That, we have prioritized secularism and materialism, and we will fail as a result of that. And, it's interesting. Take this issue. We need to increase our birth rates. Well, how do we do that? You know what we should do? We should give tax breaks to people to have children. I'm not opposed to that, but is that going to solve the problem? Mm-hmm. There's almost nothing the government could do to make it more profitable for an individual to have children. Because children are fucking expensive. So unless the government's going to send out a check for like $100,000 a year, like, you're still going to probably have less money to spend on shit if you have a kid than otherwise.
No, I agree. So that is actually something, it was a couple years ago, I guess now at this point, but Hungary did that. I'm Hungarian, so that's why I always bring up Hungarian politics. I'm American, but my family still isn't Hungary. I just have to clarify, 'cause some people in the chat like to hate on me for not being American. I am American, lived here my whole life. Having said that, they did a tax policy where if you have more than 3 children, you don't pay any income tax. Sounded like a great idea, but it's actually not really had any real effect on their birth rate.
The problem's cultural. That's
Absolutely.
the problem. You need to explain to people, if our culture values, how do I get the most stuff? It'll be hard to ever sell why you should have a child. I have friends like that, like where it's like, well, what do you want in life? I want to visit Rome. I want to have a new car. I want a Harley. I want to be able to go to concerts all the time. Like, yeah, it's hard to explain to that person, like, here's how a child fits into that picture, right? So it's more of a, like, you have to change people's values. And that, to me, is what this question is like of spirituality. It's like, what are you living for? What is the meaning? You're dead at the end of the day. Your money ain't gonna mean shit when you're dead. So what matters? What did you accomplish in life? And I'm not saying that there's a one-size-fits-all approach. I'm not. But I'm saying, as a society, if we continue to prioritize materialism and getting the most shit is cool, or getting the most clicks is cool, or getting the most popularity is cool, it is hard in that paradigm to explain why having children helps out with that goal. There's something more to it. And all I can say is, I waited a long time. I was 36 when I had my first kid. There is nothing in my life that came close to that other than getting married. It's everything's changed. Everything has changed. Like I'll watch movies now that I used to be I used to watch wrestling in the 90s. They called it the Attitude Era, right?
Okay.
So my son, he got some action figures for Christmas, like Iron Man and Captain America. And this is how he plays with them, right? He'll be like if this is Iron Man, we'll give the red guys Iron Man. This is Captain America. He just goes, and I'm like, oh no, man. He stick his arm out. You give him a stone cold stunner. You do this. You give him an elbow drop. Give him a leg drop. So I'm showing him videos. I was like, I'll show him videos of old wrestling, just moves, which my wife's very much opposed to.
Oh yeah, he'll be trying to Randy Orton you pretty soon. Be
That's
RKO.
right. Then you turn it on and it's 100 best moves at WrestleMania. And by move 2, it's oh, here's some chicken lingerie.
Yeah.
Whoops. Now, when I'm a young man, it's man, don't bother me at all.
Yeah.
But now that I have a kid, I'm hey, what the fuck?
No, so that was the cause of the whole adpocalypse in a funnel way, right? From Elsa Gate down to then YouTube losing a bunch of advertisers. Do you remember that? Were you around on YouTube when that all happened?
Yeah. It I forget what the exact impetus was. It's someone had to, because
it was something along the lines of parents would play a video for their children. It was something totally harmless. It was a frozen animation, a knockoff or whatever, and it would keep it on autoplay. And eventually, after 100 videos, then it would turn into a crude animation of some quasi porn sort of thing with Elsa in it. And it's
yeah,
why are my children watching this? What happened?
It's weird, and it has to do with how the algorithm works. One of the things I notice still to this day, if I put YouTube on of Sesame Street or something like that, and I'm sitting there and I'm watching, so I try to watch the stuff that my kid's watching as well instead of just, so you'll sit there and the first thing I noticed was there are more long ads on that stuff than if I'm watching political content. Most of the ads, if you're watching political content, even if you don't skip through them, maybe you'll see one that's a minute. Most of them, 20 seconds, 15 seconds, 30 seconds, a minute. This, all of a sudden, you'd see a 40-minute ad. And it might just be something totally benign, hey, it's two guys talking about car insurance. And I'm oh, it's because they know kids are in front of the tablet and they ain't skipping.
Yeah.
So this ad's just going to play.
Yeah.
Right? And they can get away with that more there. Then all of a sudden, I'd start to see crazy shit. It'd be one time it was this music video of Hispanic guys, and it's not super crude, but you can tell, I don't speak Spanish, but you can tell that the song's about I was sleeping with this other woman, and this woman comes in and she's kind of wearing this mini skirt and stuff, and I'm what the fuck is this? How does this make it onto an ad? We're literally watching Bob the Builder. How did this make it on? And it's so I did not have a kid when that adpocalypse shit started, and I didn't see that. I don't know if it's been fixed. I haven't really seen those creepy, weird videos like that. But yeah, you see it on the ads.
It sounds like Elsa Gate or those Elsa Spider-Man videos that were big a while back, a couple years on kids' YouTube.
Yeah, welcome to the conversation, Jack.
Nailed it. No, it's there's been so many adpocalypses though. How about the Twitch adpocalypse because the crazy lefties wanting to
do you know anything about that? Do you watch Twitch?
Good amount.
He's a Twitch streamer.
I stream on Twitch.
Yeah.
Not Rob. I'm talking about Otto von Bismarck over here.
Oh, okay.
I watch a fair bit.
So you watch Hassan stand?
Liker?
No. Well, I do watch him once in a while just to see what the fuck he's talking about.
Hate watch.
I usually only get about 2 minutes into.
Yeah, what are your thoughts on Destiny? You missed the first half of the show.
The streamer Destiny.
Yeah.
Really
he's
fucking
filming
annoying.
people.
He's definitely smart. I'll give him that. You can't say he doesn't have a brain on him, but he's also a fucking prick. So I don't know. I listen to the stuff he says, and I'm you sound really smart, but at the end of the day, he's just wrong.
See, Rob, what I'm giving you here now is the average person's perspective.
Yeah. Do you think he gets laid?
If another dude is fucking the girl he's with, then he might get some action. But besides that, he's probably just in the cuck chair as usual.
Well, so the big controversy with him is he's banging basically every every orbiter around him, and they got leaked online. And it turns out that some of the women are alleging that he filmed them without their consent.
Oh, I did see something about that. Yeah.
And another one that's all but been proven is there was consent to film, but not consent to release to other people. And he apparently was releasing these. I mean,
Which
so
is
I'll tell
so
you a little
funny
story.
because he's like the golden boy for being, he just seems like I'm a good person or like,
Yeah,
blah, blah, blah. And then-
Arguing against, he's basically everything that he complained about Andrew Tate.
yeah, it's
for
like,
being.
oh, so you're
That's
actually
basically
just a piece of shit. So, okay.
When I was in policy debate in college, there was a kid who was the best debater. He won first prize at most of the debate tournaments. This guy, imagine me, but 100 pounds heavier, with even back then being like 20 something, had the old like the greasy long hair, but like the skullet, like where they're bald at
Dwight
balding
Yoakam,
at the top.
Dwight Yoakam
At, like,
skullet, yeah.
Yeah, at like age 20. Didn't smell very good from what I can remember. Every tournament you'd be, because like this is debates. It's like you might as well be a Dungeons and Dragons fucking crowd. Everybody's a nerd. I'm a fucking nerd. We're all nerds there. We're debaters, But you're a big fish in a small pond. And there'd be some attractive nerdy chicks. You'd like after a tournament or something, you'd see people out at the bar or whatever. This guy always had the most attractive girl in his arm from the debate community, right? And it's like I remember then thinking like, wow, what the? But it's because it's not about how you look. It's about what can you offer other people in that space, and that's what Destiny offers. He offers clout. He offers clicks. He offers views. He offers money, and so I know it's easy to be like that dude ain't getting laid, but he is. And if you're in that position and you're sexual deviant or you're willing to exert that power in order to sort of take advantage and hook up, you're going to do it a lot. And unfortunately I think a lot of people have put themselves into thinking that he's harmless because of things he says. And as we were saying at the beginning of the show, sometimes the worst people are the people that claim to be allies and feminists. They're the ones, they're like predators, man. They fucking infiltrate in that community. See, I'm harmless. See, I knew a dude like that in real life. Like, he wasn't like that. He wasn't like super bad or anything. But like, I had all these friends that were girls, and they would always be like, oh, we wouldn't talk to you guys about this, but this guy we would. And I was like, well, what's different about that guy? Oh, he's just harmless. I mean, that guy's talking to us about how he hopes you blow him and all this shit, like all the time. Like to you, he just seems like this like gay, effeminate dude. But in reality, he's coming back to us like, yeah, I'm gonna bang that chick, And it's like, I don't give a shit as long as it's consensual. I don't give a fuck. But it's funny how that works. Like if you put that cloak of like, I'm an ally. I really care about women.
Yeah, it's a male feminist. It's a male feminist wolf in sheep's clothing stereotype
Right.
in a nutshell.
Yeah,
And
so
that's the 22% that you mentioned earlier in the stream that are satisfied with the Democratic Party. They're just not willing to admit it because the girls that are around them.
if it ever becomes like unpopular to get chicks that way, you'll see those dudes leave in droves.
Yeah.
Like,
Like, they'll all of a sudden be, and it's so much of it's like, I mean, look, to some extent, we all use what we got. Like, it's a weird questions around consent. Like for me, again, talking about changing language, there used to be this woman I liked to listen to. Her name was Karen Strawn, and she used to talk about how we've changed the definition of consent. I thought it was fascinating. She would talk about books like 50 Shades of Grey, or like the old stereotypical romance of, you'd see that. Fuck, you guys are too young for this. Do you know who Fabio is?
I do.
Yeah,
I
I know
did,
Fabio.
as a meme more than like an actual
Yeah.
fictional
He used to
character or
be-
whatever.
long
They would
blonde
paint
hair,
him on the
right?
cover of every chick book, right? He'd be like holding a woman like he's a pirate.
Yeah, like on a
there would
ship.
be-
Yeah.
So there'd be these books written, and it would basically like it's sexual fantasy from a woman's perspective, sort of like 50 Shades of Grey, right? So these fantasy novels with like the pirates would be something like this: the woman's on a mercantile ship, and pirates raid it, and they kill all the men, and the mercantile men are like, "Run! Don't leave them take you alive. Here's a pistol, kill yourself." But she doesn't, and then this pirate ravages. There's Fabio, yeah. But there's Fabio one time. Here's a Fabio story. He was on for a promotional thing. Was on a roller coaster, and a fucking pigeon hit him in the face and broke his face. It was all
What?
bloody. Yeah, that shit happened for.
Couldn't happen to a worse person either.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah, like his whole career is his
Yeah.
face. It's like, oh shit. But anyways, she talks about, she's like, so the fantasy is that basically this guy, pirate, sexually assaults and takes her, right? But then she slowly realizes that he's this attractive, good guy, right? And so the idea of consent is We would say at the time of the intercourse was consent given. No? Okay, that's a crime or that's immoral. But no, the way they were looking at it is, well, no, because he's desirable. So it was okay. She eventually came along. And inversely, you'll hear stories like, I slept with that guy because he told me he was a professor, but it turns out he lied and he was a plumber. Or he said that he was worth millions of dollars, but he turned out he lied. So that's sexual assault. I didn't consent. Or I consented, but we were both drunk. So that doesn't count. In other words, consent has changed from was the consent at the time of the action to am I happy with how the action played out? And if you are, well, then that's consent. And if you're not, even if the guy thinks consent was given, not so much anymore. And that's so much of the hysteria that was going on when we saw like the UVA rape case that you saw the Rolling Stone put that was all a hoax. You saw the Tawana Brawley, like
Duke lacrosse team or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, the Duke lacrosse. I mean, that. Did you see that woman just came out? She's in prison.
Yeah.
She, after that incident, murdered another person.
She admits lying.
Yeah, those dudes' lives got destroyed, and it's just like no one gave a shit. You know, it's
There
really
was
sad. So
there's so many stories of that. Sean Oakman, do you know who that is? He was a Baylor football player. The only reason he actually played at Penn State, ironically, got kicked out of Penn State for stealing stuff at a grocery store. But he went to Baylor. He was supposed to be like the #1 draft pick, and a girl accused him of rape. And only like it was like that was in like 2014. It was like 4 months ago. It came out that she was lying.
it's
His
brutal.
whole, not just his life, like his whole opportunity of career, like windows closed now. It's done, gone.
Right. What are you gonna do? Like he could have made millions, and now he's probably a carpenter or something somewhere. And it's like, well, sorry about that. Jeez, thanks.
Yeah, no, exactly.
With Trevor Bauer.
I'll try and
the
pull up a
pitcher.
picture of him. He's like a specimen for sure.
Yeah, it's just brutal. But like,
This guy.
wow, he looks like he still rips some shit.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
but like, so the questions of consent, there are clear lines that we should all agree with, but all of a sudden they get murky, right? And so put yourself in this left wing perspective, right, where it's all about we're feminist and women and blah 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 blah, and then it's like, well, lefties will say shit like this. There was a famous case that, again, you guys are probably too young for it. David Letterman, who wasn't married, I don't think,
still
slept
alive.
with. Yeah, well, Letterman's alive. Yeah, but Letterman slept with one of the women that worked on his staff, who obviously had a lower position. I mean, he's fucking David Letterman. He sleep with like the woman bringing in the coffee or
He's
some
the
shit.
man. His name's on the
And
marquee.
people were like, people were like, well, she can't consent because the power dynamics. And it's like, well, wait a minute. I can see how that could be problematic. But on the other hand, what is it about that? Well, he's using his assets, in this case, that he's, powerful, to get women. And it's like, yeah, but she's using her tits.
Yeah, imagine
So is
telling
that-
that to like a businessman in the 70s. Like, well,
Right.
yeah,
But-
that's how it works. Yeah.
People are using their advantages
Yeah.
to hook up.
Yeah.
Yes, for women it might be they're attractive. Does that mean that's unethical for her to do that? Now, again, then there are questions of like, yeah, but how far do you go with this? If you're a professor and you have a 21-year-old student, is that immoral? I don't know. But now you have all these questions surrounding this streamer Destiny with, okay, does he have any moral obligation as a streamer that's a millionaire that has all of this influence hooking up with 19-year-old chicks that are basically like, oh my God, I'll do anything to get famous on YouTube? I don't know. And then it goes further. Should he be filming it? It seems clear he violated consent by sending it out without letting them know, and he's accused of filming it. That would also be a violation of consent. But it's difficult because, or here's another question. How much immorality do you place on it? It's fucking degeneracy. It's immoral. But how much is it like you should never be allowed to stream again? Is it worse than calling for the assassination of the president?
Yeah. Should he be on the sex offender registry? Stuff like
Right.
that.
These are all like legitimate questions. So for me, I am not a big, I'm not a big fucking fan of Destiny or anything like that anyways. Before this incident, he put me on a blacklist, so I ain't getting no clout from him or any shit like that, and I still defend him when I think that I should if an issue comes up and someone brings it up to me. But everybody has to make up their own mind. I'm not calling for YouTube to kick this dude off. If someone says, hey, I still want to stream with this guy, have at her. I don't give a shit. My area of concern with most of this was, as you know, Jack, because I think you watch me, like, I work with a lot of these orbiters like Pisco or Econoboy or like what are they saying? Because do I still want to interact with them? Because if they're
They're
just
all
like,
distancing themselves.
but in half-assed ways. We'll see what happens. Right? Once this blows over, we'll see if they come crawling back.
Yeah, that's a good point, Rob. I predict that. I think Destiny is going to settle this in a civil suit. I don't know where the lawsuit with Cherry's going to come. She said that she's going to make it a criminal case, but I don't know about that. But yeah, I think after he sells it, I think all the orbiters are going to slowly come back. I agree with you, Rob.
But so my question is, I'm not even saying that you can come back. I don't give a shit. I'm just asking questions based on the information we have available. That's all I'm doing. So if you say, well, I'm temporarily putting on halt, but I'll come back if I feel that he has signs of changing. And it's like, okay, well, let's look at what he said since then. He said he put up a costume of Dr. Disrespect and said, get my outfit ready for my return stream. Does that sound like a guy that's remorseful? Right? He seems like more leaks just came out today in January, sometime in January after these leaks came out and the story came, that he's still offering to send, videos of his to other people. Does that sound like, that's what I'm saying. Shit or get off the pot, man. If you are just like, fuck it, I got this guy's back, I don't give a shit, okay. Or if you're like, nah, it's too much for me. But if you're going to be like, well, it depends on what he does, then I think that people have the right to say, okay, now you see what he's doing. What do you think about that? Do you think that's acceptable or not? And that's the only thing, that's basically how I got involved in the story, because I see people that I stream with all the time, like Counterpoints, and he does this fucking stream where it's like I'll give my impression of him and Brianna Wu talking about, well, Brianna Wu, we're going to talk about the Destiny allegations. So here's Connor. He's like, well, it's an hour of this. Well, Destiny, he had a really tough life growing up. He had a lot of trauma. His grandma used to adopt pets just so she could say they had an illness and put them down. And one time he used to just stay in his backyard until he saw when his parents would call him in. That's very traumatic. And he's so talented, and he's such a nice guy, and he's all this. And President Sunday that broke this video is a monster. He's terrible. Oh my God, I can't believe what he did. And Lav, oh my God, I can't believe Lav. She needs to answer questions about his son. She must answer. And Mr. Girl, oh my God, he says he's a piece of shit too. And yeah, I guess Destiny should face some accountability. It's like, you couldn't be more clear. Just say, I like the money that comes in when I'm working with Destiny, so I'm going to say the minimal possible so that I can act like I give a shit about the victims, but I still don't want to burn that bridge. Just fucking say it. Just be a man and say that.
Yeah, well,
that's what
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah, with Counterpoint, it's really frustrating because he's the token conservative, and he's the one saying, if you're a Republican that votes Trump, you don't have any principles whatsoever. But when someone within his personal circle does something, he's very quiet all of a sudden. For something that I actually view what Destiny did to be worse than anything Trump's been accused of, or what he's been found guilty of, at least.
Yeah, it certainly. Yeah. Well, no. I think sexual assault would be worse, in my opinion. So if this is why it's worse, though. Because with Destiny, we have his DMs that all but admit he did this. I don't believe Trump did what he did to E. John Carroll, or what he's accused of doing. I don't believe it. I don't give a shit that a New York jury found him guilty from a woman that makes claims that basically said she named her cat Vagina and she thinks that rape could be sexy, and she didn't have contemporaneous witnesses, and she didn't bring this case for 20 years, and they changed the law because she worked with Democratic advocates Reid Hoffman to be able to bring this story to try to take down Trump. No, I don't believe it.
And all that's putting aside the fact that she's accusing the most popular man in all of New York City of walking into a random Macy's, dragging her into a dressing room, and then raping her like he wouldn't have been caught.
It wasn't a Macy's. Well, I forget the name of the department store. But yeah, in effect, that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, also a major factor of that case is that they used colloquial term of sexual assault. They didn't use the actual literal term that's associated with sexual assault, right?
Yes, and so that's how the judge though went out of his way, even though the jury found him not liable for rape. The judge was like, well, this is basically rape, which is insane that a judge would say that, but okay, whatever. And they used the sort of colloquial is what he tried to say. But to speak more to your point, though, right? One of the things that I think separates a lot of what I see of people that lean conservative, again, in general, conservative versus people that are liberal, are that we tend to focus more on personal actions, and they tend to focus more on sort of the virtue signaling or ceremonial actions such as voting. So like, for example, like a conservative would maybe see a homeless person and be like, hey man, let me clean you up. Let me help you out. Let me go take you out for a meal. But a Democrat would be like, but I voted for Bernie and he wants to help homeless people. So I'm good. It doesn't matter that I stepped over that homeless. I voted the right way, right? That's all that matters, right? And like, you know, I won't mention, there's this guy Zizek, he's a lefty, he's kind of a nut. But he talks about this, the idea of like Starbucks. With Starbucks, it's great for liberals because the shame is built into it. Right? We have coffee beans that are picked by exploitive labor, but we charge you an extra $1.50. And then we send some of that money to help exploited coffee workers. And so they can say, I feel like I did something. I bought Starbucks. See, I helped the exploited coffee. That's how they, so for them, it makes sense then when it's like, okay, we're talking about voting for a guy in Trump, such as against Joe Biden. Both of them have been accused of sexual assault. Both of them, right? So we're trying to make a decision based on a country of what direction we go. With you, we're talking about the dude you're in a business partnership with. You yourself, individually, not some abstract, who are you voting for, some person you'll never meet in your life. And they have the inverse. They're like, no, who I vote for, the character of that person, well, they'll lie and say their character is always good, who they vote for. But what they're saying here is the character of that person, of who you vote for, is more important than the people that you interact with on a day-to-day basis. I couldn't disagree more. So both in that, with Trump, we don't have like an admission from him like we have with Destiny. And I ain't working personally with Trump. But all these lefties are working personally with Destiny. And they're the ones. And here's the other thing. If this is tough to say, and I just want to be clear. But if your argument the whole time has been like, I don't give a fuck about this. I don't think it's a big deal to film chicks. You know, I watched Always Sunny. I think Dennis is the man. Go ahead, put secret cams up. That's a terrible mindset to have. But at least I can understand being like, so I don't give a fuck that Destiny did this, right? But they're the exact opposite. They're the people that will wax on and on about consent. Oh, and power imbalances. And okay, how could you make that part of who you are and then simultaneously be like, well, when it affects my bottom line. And it's like bringing it full circle to that conversation we had about Norm Macdonald. So much of how we should judge people is based on what you do in the moment when it could harm you. That's what speaking truth to power is. That's what courage is. Did you do the right thing when it mattered? It's easy. I lost fucking subscribers. I lost viewers in 2020 when I was arguing like fucking crazy with people in my chat and people in other places I was, that 15 days to slow the spread was fucking horrendous. Locking down this country was a disaster. I criticized Trump for paying lip service to it. And people were like, we knew you were a Democrat, you motherfucker, blah, 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 blah. I knew that would hurt my channel. I didn't give a shit. That's what I believed in my heart. Turns out I was right. Now a lot of people that said I was a monster back then are out there saying like, oh, Trump supported lockdowns. Well, how could he have done that? Yeah, easy to say that now. So like the people that's what gets me. It's so obvious to me that all of these people around Destiny are like, well, let's wait and see what people think. And then we'll make a decision, because at the end of the day, I don't want to burn that bridge. I like, if I have to, then I guess I will. But I like that, that's like Erudite. I know no one gives a shit about this, but fucking his business partner Erudite, that she was instrumental in going back and forth between the alleged victim and Destiny and trying to get a settlement amount and shit like that. She says, well, when I talked to Destiny, I thought that he was apologetic. So she knew of this allegations for 2 months. You go to YouTube right now and check out their show. It's called Bridges. There she is, yucking it up with this dude. Now she claims to be like an advocate for women's sexual assault survivors. So it's like, how do you explain that? Yeah. You think this guy did a monstrous act for 2 months and you're still doing shows with him every week? Yeah, good job, Destiny. Right?
Well, we can't explain it. We can't explain it, Rob. Because she's not from the United States. She moved here specifically to work with Destiny. So she's his business partner. So she can't publicly come out and say, yeah.
Get her, Trump. But
Rob, I hate to do this. I got a hard out at 9 o'clock and I got to go to the bathroom real bad.
I'll wrap it up real quick here.
All right.
The point I'm trying to make is that, like, if you are the type of person that says this is my morality, and then it affects you negatively to have to stand by your principles, that's when a person should be judged. And to me, in addition to Destiny, the schadenfreude of him having to go through this, so many people failing that test right now, I think is what the story is. So.
I agree with you. And I want to thank you very much. I've enjoyed this talk a lot. Like I said, I hate to do this, but this has been a great time. I want to
Listen, we should do it like once a month. We
No,
should schedule
yeah,
out once
we
a month.
should,
and do
actually.
this.
Yeah.
I'm here
That's
for that.
great,
I'm
yeah.
here for that. You enlighten me in so many different ways tonight. I'm very appreciative of it, and I encourage everybody who's listening on our channel and not on his to go subscribe to Rob Noerr again. And anyone that's listening on Rob Noerr's channel right now, please feel free to subscribe to Ciderhaus. Like I said, if you get me to 1,000 tonight, I have to walk to California with a bucket of water. So
We're putting the links out there, and then can you tell us when you're normally streaming? Like, what's a normal
yes. So
schedule
normally
for
we
you?
are on live on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 6 through 8 is the time slot. So
Eastern time, so same
so
time
we'll
as
be back
tonight.
next Tuesday, and we'll be here at 6 o'clock doing the same thing. Different set of guests probably. We usually try and rotate out as much as we can, but Jack.
Well,
and I
I
are
would be
always there.
happy to set something up and do like a regular schedule thing. And also, I think once the weather gets nice here, I'll talk to Jack and John and everyone, and I'll try to make a visit out to the studio. Maybe have a
that'd be
helmet
awesome.
beer. Yeah, have a helmet beer myself.
Yeah.
It looks so delicious. Who could turn that down? So.
No, absolutely. Until then, we will get that done one day. But until then, I want to thank all the world champions. And as John Ward would say, don't let your memes be dreams. Goodbye, everybody.
We'll see y'all.
Later.